Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the AV Experience. Today, we're going to be talking about what would we do with $10,000 and a new apartment. I think we're all going to take different directions on this, like we always do. I'm going to accuse somebody of cheating because they inevitably will. And we all watched Oblivion. We actually all watched the movie, which was good. And I think we should do Letterboxd because I think that's a great idea because all of my ideas are great and everybody should listen to what I say. Not really. Don't do that. But gentlemen, how have you guys been? How was your week? How has your weekend been? Anything exciting? Jonathan's lily pads are still back there that I'm sure his kids are jumping up and down on. Anybody get launched into the ceiling by one of those UM18s yet?
Not yet. They're not hooked up.
Have you seen any footprints yet?
No, thankfully.
Are you sure?
Or fingerprints?
Not yet. We just
What have you been?
it. They're out of the way for the seats to come up. They're just sitting there. They're not doing anything.
So those are the new ones.
3 of them are, and the other one's one out of the box because I wanted to compare them. But when I build the new boxes, I'll compare them.
Did you notice a difference when you took one out?
They're different sizes. I mean, the basket's different. The surround's different. The cone.
I meant an output of the drivers that you're using now because I'm assuming you've had the system on.
I can't even tell the test the new ones because they don't fit in my old boxes. I don't want to share my old boxes to make them fit. So they'll go compared when I make a new box.
Before we got on, Bob and I were giving him crap because Jonathan wants to get a certain saw, and Bob and I keep telling him, "Don't do that. That's not how that saw should be used." He's like, "I ordered one anyway." So if Jonathan comes on stream next week and is missing an appendage, we all know what happened.
Just don't cut without the fence.
Yeah.
Or just don't put your arms and hands into the camera so we will never know.
Can't reply in chat anymore. But,
so how was your week?
I'm fighting a cold again. I'm tired of the colds. What's going on with my body?
I don't know, Bob.
A busy weekend so far. I spent the morning at Chuck E. Cheese at a kid's birthday party. Then had basketball practice, and yeah, it's been fun.
I don't think I did anything. I don't even know what I did. What did I do? Don't even know what I did. Why did the background just go away? There it goes. Okay, I'm pushing buttons behind the scene. Talking about Jonathan not getting saws. Don't let me near a mouse and her keyboard. I'll break something.
That is the most important thing, Ryan.
Yeah.
other Ryan. Don't ever use a table saw without a riving knife.
So jumping right into this, our topic for today, and then we'll talk about the movie before we get into questions. Our topic for the day was, what would we do with $10,000 and an apartment? Not worrying about the room, equipment only. What direction will we go? Did anybody make some major departure from what I think they would do?
I did a 15.1.8 system.
That was delivered so like nonchalantly as something that you would absolutely do. Oh, I did this. Oh my gosh.
You know, I was looking at some of those small like little satellite systems.
No, you weren't.
No, I actually was, because I was looking at some of the like wireless options. And there's some that have, you know, the small little satellites. I'm like, I could stick these everywhere around the entire room and have
So you're talking about having the rooms that have too many can lights, and Bob's just up there with too many speakers. He's got ceiling acne, but instead of them being lights, they're just satellite speakers. Cords aren't even stapled to the ceiling. They're just draped and hanging.
Little 2-inch Yamaha speaker cubes everywhere.
I'm imagining Bob with now just a stack of like Sony home theater in a box, and he's got them all bridged so that they all play the same source.
Yeah. So I pulled out my notebook or my notes from Expo last year, and I started looking through it for like speakers that were remotely affordable that I really enjoyed listening. And I'm like, oh man, if I just use like weird esoteric stuff, I'm going to get in trouble. So I tried to stay at least mainstream. But there were a couple smaller bookshelf or lifestyle-ish size speakers that sounded really good that would work well. They're just, you know, not things that a lot of people have either seen or heard of.
I don't think esoteric's bad, because I think it brings a lot of people potentially into the fold. Some random thing I don't remember where I saw it, but it said we as people have a tendency to utilize brands that we know a lot more, and we don't like to deviate or diverge into things that we don't know because we're afraid of the unknown. So I don't think that esoteric or things that are off on the side or necessarily bad to bring up. I might make fun of you for it, but you know, I think it's fair.
Well, I mean, it was stuff that I would like for music, but not necessarily had the dynamic range or the headroom for home theater also.
Well, that's fine as long as you know the limitations and you understand the compromise you're making.
Right.
That's the important thing. And I want people to understand that it's not necessarily, sure, we poo-poo on stuff and we say this is bad, but if you get it for a purpose and you're buying it and it meets the expectation for said purpose, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It just use it within its means. So, aside from Jonathan bringing all of Best Buy into his living room,
It's not what you think. But
before we go into that,
I think
what home theater in a box? I want you guys to, both of you, to try and, because we've all had them, describe your favorite one that you had. Bob, let's start with you. I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you remember?
I've never actually owned a home theater.
Oh my gosh. He's better than all of us.
No. So, I mean, so I had, you know, as a teenager, I had one of the Iowa, you know, Circuit City, all-in-one stack, dual tape deck CD player.
Did you drool over the sharper image, like glass front, flat speaker things with the vertical CD player?
No, I got it because it had a timer and I could use it to record shows that I wanted on the radio when I wasn't necessarily home.
Oh, so you actually had him for useful reasons, not just
I recorded the
reasons like Ryan.
I recorded the Dr. Demento show every Sunday night.
Oh, okay.
And I have like two boxes upstairs full of old cassette tapes of old shows.
Do you still have that piece of equipment?
Yes, I do actually.
I knew it.
House.
I knew it.
I think I have everything. I don't think I've ever gotten rid of anything. Like the next thing I got was a pair of Bowers and Wilkins like CDM 2SEs, and my dad uses them in his home theater. And then I bought a pair of Gallo nuclear references, and my father-in-law is using them in his home theater.
So instead of Bob getting rid of stuff, he just passes them on.
Sounds like his whole family's got all Bob's stuff.
Yes.
What about you, Jonathan?
I had an Iowa system. It was a home theater in a box system. And the receiver started blowing speakers when I went up to a better quality speaker. Like it was mated to those home theater and box speakers. I bought some Wharfdale Towers and they kept blowing drivers.
Yeah,
the story on that was they were like Wharfdale 89, SP 89. They're supposed to handle like 450 watts. That little AOA receiver was probably like 80 watts or 100 watts or something. You know, it was a home theater and box receiver. And I contacted the company every time they were under warranty, and they honored the warranty. They'd send me new drivers. At some point, after like 3 full replacements, the guy like contacted me, and the guy that was doing the RMAs, he said, "We've never had a customer blow out speakers like this. What kind of power are you driving this thing on?" I'm like, "I just got a little Iowa home theater in a box thing." He's like, "That's a piece of junk. Just send some distortion to our speakers. You're blowing them with distortion."
Yeah.
He goes, "Buy a better receiver and you won't be blowing our speakers. We don't have this problem." So I bought a Denon, like a Denon flagship, an older one off eBay. And I never had another blown speaker with those things. And I kept them for like 12 years after that and played them louder. Like that was kind of a learning experience for me.
You saying that, and now I'm just imagining in some type of frequency response or synad that Audio Science Review or something did with that, and it's you look at the response and it's nothing but distortion being sent to the speaker.
That's all it is. That thing had to be clipping like crazy.
Oh man, mine. I don't remember the model. It was a Sony, and I thought it was so cool. It was probably something along the lines of a 2.75 ohm or something stupid that you could only use with it. And then it had circular buttons that would hurt when you pressed your finger onto them, and they had colored lights around them. And I thought it was the coolest thing. And then it had the proprietary connections in the back for the speakers that were all different colors. I'm like, I've made it. Listen to my 4-inch subwoofer thump. And it was just this, I thought it was awesome. And it probably was awesome for me, probably not for anybody else.
My first subwoofer was something like that too. It was from a pawn shop. It was a passive subwoofer. You wired it in line with your speakers, and it had to be a tiny little driver because the box wasn't very big.
Okay, mine didn't do that.
But I thought it was cool. I mean,
Yeah.
it added a little extra bass.
Same,
Probably at like
same premise.
30 hertz, probably like one little hump.
It's just a one-hit wonder, and that's all it
Or
does.
50 probably.
Probably
Yeah,
rolls off at like 50 hertz,
Yeah.
48 dB per octave. It's just like a wall, and then it falls off. But for that one thing, it's fantastic.
It's got to get the kick drum. That's all it needs to do.
That's all it needs to do, and I will be happy because I don't know any better.
Exactly.
Oh, man. Okay, so let's start with displays. I'm expecting Jonathan to have a notebook
Well,
on what's going on.
I'm
I've got a
playing
spreadsheet.
with a LG OLED 83-inch, a B4 for $2,500.
83.
83, $2,500. Best Buy.
Okay, Bob.
I was torn between the 83 B3 and the 77 C4, and I went with the C4.
Look at Bob over here making it rain. I went
I
with
think
a
the C4 was like, how much was that? That was more, wasn't it?
Same price. So you can do 83 or
77.
83 or 77 if you just want the extra brightness.
So
It's going to depend on your room. I mean, if your room doesn't have a lot of the side lighting and everything, you don't need it, then get the 83 or get
I
the
assume that
smaller.
I was a recluse, so I don't leave my room, so I don't need the brightness.
So
Right.
the B4 was like 600 nits or something. What's the
Right.
the C4?
Like 900.
So you're gonna, yeah, and that's pretty significant.
That's significant. I went with a B4 77. It's amazing how similar we always are.
Why are we thinking alike?
I don't know. It's like we're in the same hobby together. I'm not really sure. Okay, so
Ooh, let me check. Actually, make sure I did that one. That is the one I have currently selected in my price that fits. So yes.
Oh,
I think
you changed
Bob-
that up at the top of the cap there.
I think Bob should just say he did the 83 B4, so we're all the same.
I can put that in there and put rear speakers in, but the problem is you don't know your room layout, so you don't know if you need rear speakers or not.
What
the reality
receiver?
is that I was going to broach this on the thing, but I didn't want to put it in my spreadsheet because you guys would eat me alive. But there's been $3,000 C4s for like the last 2 weeks. There just isn't right now today. Like if you go to slickdeals.net, they've been there. C4s for $3,000.
Yeah.
Jonathan's riding on his bicycle, chasing the white truck, waiting for something to fall off.
No, see, I need
That's where he gets this
deals that are there right now today.
Yep.
2,500 is there today.
Okay. Well, I went with a 77-inch B4, which was 1,700. That was my price point. What'd you guys do for receiver? Did we all pick the same one?
No. This is where I'm going to start deviating pretty
what'd you
hard. My receiver costs $46.95, so it's a big hunk of the budget.
What?
It is the Smyth Realiser A16. Have you heard of it?
No.
It's fantastic.
What are you doing?
So here,
What? What?
I told you I had a 15.1.8 setup. So this is
Wait,
how.
you weren't kidding?
No.
Oh, no. I see what you
my
did. I know what he did.
Yeah. All right. So it's simulated.
still have
I just
no
looked
idea.
I just looked that up.
I need to see. What is it again? Hold on. What is it?
Realizer A16. We
Oh,
should,
you said you were gonna do this last time too.
Realizer
we should
Yes.
pull it up.
A15.
Share your screen. A16.
Yeah.
We'll talk through it. I've heard this thing in Exponent and it blew me away. And I'll explain why as you get the screen up. So what it is, this is a 2-person simulated Dolby Atmos system, DTSX, like it's got everything. It records the sound waves inside your ears with the inner ear mics, and it caters the sound exactly to your ear.
Mm-hmm.
And the demo at Exponent is so cool. Bob, when you were there, did you happen to experience it?
I did not do this one, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
So they had a 7.1.4 Yamaha bookshelf system, like studio monitors in the room. And then they put this Smyth analyzer on there and they had a gyroscope on the headphone. And on the headphone, when you take the headphones off, the gyroscope would turn off the headphones and turn on the speakers. And when you put the speakers on, or the headphones on, it would turn off the speakers and turn on the headphones. The gyroscope makes it so as you turn your head, the speakers stay fixed. They don't follow your head. So the soundstage changes as you turn your head. So it's got head tracking.
Yep.
And I'm telling you, you can't believe it until you experience yourself. You cannot tell the difference between taking the headphones off and hearing the full system and putting the headphones on and hearing through the headphones. They can, because they're recording it in your ear, it's unique per person. It takes 2 or 3 minutes to set it up for every person because they put the mic in your ears like it's uncomfortable, like a Q-tip almost that goes in there.
Yep.
And it records and it catches like your, what do they call it? The pinna or something like that. The basically the unique characteristics of your ear shape. And it makes the sound waves come from exactly where you think they were. You'd swear wearing headphones. I mean, I've played with a lot of simulated headphone stuff. It's all toys. This is not a toy. This is the real deal.
Yeah, you can do the same thing with that the Bach audio system, and it does a pretty good job. But you have to have it specifically calibrated for you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not the one calibrated for, and you're not sitting in the right spot, or at least in the same like initial plane, it doesn't work nearly as well.
Mm-hmm. So with this one, they have 2 different models. If you go to buy, Ryan, you'll see the different stuff they have here. That second one there, the A16 rack, the 2U. So it's just basically like a little receiver. It runs 2 headphones effectively, and it has full processing, HDMI in, everything, on-screen display. I mean, me selling it by just talking about it is not nearly as cool. If you go to Exponent, this is a must-hit demo. You gotta experience it. It's unbelievable. It really is just unbelievable. Everyone that went in there was just like, "Holy smokes, that's unreal!" And the other cool thing is they have all these different venues they've recorded. So like major theatrical stage halls and opera centers, opera houses, that kind of stuff. They've recorded what the ambient sound like is that, and they've changed the frequency response to match that. They recommend a Sennheiser A800 or some sort of. They have the headphones they recommend on the page.
They
I can't
do.
remember
It's
the other one.
these. It's the
Stax or something
Sennheisers.
like that. Yeah, they recommend a very, very neutral headphone so that your headphones aren't coloring what their recording is. But ultimately, it doesn't matter. You can use anything you want. It just will color the sound. So you might not get the sound stage of what they're trying to recreate. And you can even like say in my room, if I wanted to record what my room sounded like, and that's what they were doing with that Yamaha, they can record any kind of external room and then play it back and it sounds identical. If you have a neutral headphone, it sounds identical. And the placement is eerily, I'm telling you, eerily realistic. So this would be a 2-person setup. It records for 2 people. And then if you wanted to have more people, you'd have to like just have a set of speakers, or you'd have to have like a headphone splitter, and other people, it wouldn't work as good for them because it's recorded for your ear personally and it'd be shared, but it'd still be fun. Anyway, amazing technology, like top of the line as far as the simulators. So there, that's where my head was at on this.
Now, interesting. Did you go and add a whole bunch of tactile into the seat to make up for the fact?
I added one set of tactile since the apartment. I added.
Okay. Yeah.
Jonathan has that chair, like the crucifixion tactile chair that exists on the tactile thread. So now I'm just visualizing Jonathan with these headphones on, like this, in the chair with the experience. Is this why the subs are on the floor in your room? Are you selling everything and then moving to the A16?
No, but if I was going to an apartment, that's the only thing I'd do. Now, to be fair, you don't want to wear headphones every time you sit down. So I have a little set of bookshelves mixed into this overview that I have, but it's just for use when you're not using this. If you're watching cinema, this is the ticket. If you can't have a full system, you don't have to hang anything. You don't have to run any wires. You just have a set of headphones and it sounds amazing.
Yeah. I mean, think about how many gamers sit there and spend 4, 6, 8, 10 hours a night wearing a pair of headphones.
Mm-hmm. So the speakers I have, I'm just going to go through mine and then we can go through that way it's done. So the speakers I picked a JBL 306. So you just put those at left and right of your 83-inch OLED or 77-inch OLED or whatever you decide. That gives you sound, in the room. Not heavy bass. They're cut off at like 50 hertz, but they sound good. You could do it with any set of speakers you want, but those are powered. Since this receiver doesn't have amplifiers, that would allow the receiver to play the speakers since they're powered. You could just, convert from RCA to XLR passively. And then for headphones, because I'm kind of getting near my budget here, I'm at $9,700. The headphones I chose instead of the Sennheisers, and the Sennheiser 800 would be the way to go. But these are about $150. They're Philips Fidelio let me look at it real quick. X2HR. I always forget the order of the characters. X2HR. I've had Sennheiser 650s. I had Sennheiser 600s. I've had Sennheiser 535s, 580s. I've had the whole line of Sennheisers. I've heard the 800s. I've never owned them. I like these Philips better than any of those Sennheisers. They're light on the head, super comfortable, big, deep ear holes, so that doesn't touch your head, doesn't touch your ears. This is a super good idea. It's super comfortable, feels real light. Nice metal construction, very durable. It has a standard like 3/4 or 3/8 inch jack, so you can run it with anything, like a little mod mic or whatever. It's not the proprietary Sennheiser crap that you can't buy new cords if something breaks. So like these are fantastic headphones. They sound great. They measure great. I mean, who's that guy that does a bunch of headphones reviews? He's all over the YouTube. He's like one of the original headphone reviewer guys.
The one that got in the legal battle recently?
I don't know if he did or not. He's kind of got a potty mouth, but he's fun to watch. He always wears like a head-mounted cam, and his arms look weird and stuff. But he's talking about how all these headphones. This is one of his favorite pairs, and I agree. That's the reason I bought these, because he liked them so much. Z-Man reviews.
Okay.
Have you heard of him?
No.
Let me find that, and I'll put it in the chat for people to watch. But if you want a pair of $150 headphones that just beat the cat's meow, this is it. This is a great set of headphones.
Jonathan, you're being called out.
What's that?
Paul Lay says you just need to stop. His local Goodwill has 12 black swans for $10 each. You just need to give up.
I like it, Paul. You and I see eye to eye.
Okay, so that's your entire setup.
Yeah, the Krausen. So you said tactile.
So you did
Krausen has a $2,000 level 2 pack that comes with 2 transducers, amplifiers, all you need to make it work. So if you had a couch or something in an apartment, you'd have 2 legs, and you could run it off subwoofer 1 and subwoofer 2. That little realizer, Smyth Realiser, has 2 tactile outputs, so it's perfect for that, 1 and 2. And it just run your couch, right? It just give you a little bit of that feel that you otherwise would not have. I hesitated a little bit on this because I don't know if Krausen would transmit through the floor. Like, I honestly don't know, but I don't necessarily think it would.
I mean, you could put decouplers underneath them if you had to.
It could end up being like an off-balance washing machine. I don't to the neighbors downstairs or something. I don't know.
That's out of the box. That's definitely, I didn't see that coming.
No, I like that.
That's interesting. I don't think I would go that way, but that's a great suggestion. It's something that I think people should be aware of. I forgot that existed.
Yeah. Well, once people experienced it, I think it would even go that much farther, because just hearing about it, you're like, man, that's dumb. $5,000 for a simulator. Just check it out. Go to Exponent and check it out.
Yeah. No, I've heard things like that before, and they do a neat job.
All right. So, Bob, you and I are on AVR still. What'd you choose?
That Denon 1800H for $550 at Nebraska Furniture Mart, or wherever they are right now.
These prices are ridiculous. All right. I did the same thing. Denon X1800H. It gives for what I did. It provides for growth, right? So I could have done other things, but that's what I decided to do for if I wanted to add more to the system. If I moved or did something, I wouldn't have to rebuy. It did everything that I needed and gave me room for expansion. Speakers, you said you did something weird. Or
I didn't do something weird. I just found something on sale that I like.
Oh.
So I have the Revel 226BEs. They are on sale in silver, basically everywhere, for $2,000 a piece.
So, okay.
And that's a great speaker for a really good price.
Okay. So 2,000, so that's 4,000.
Right.
And those. I did depending on if I found Jonathan's sale or not, if we went the sale prices on anything or not, and given the sale price on the Denon, I could be decently close to this. So I chose the Ascendo, the 10s. Mainly because if I wanted to expand later, I could just throw them into the theater and just add more speakers. Now, if I found sale prices on everything, I would do the 12s.
These have been on sale for this price for, I think, since like September. So this might just be
You chasing the truck too on your bicycle?
No, I just looked them up and I saw that. I'm like, oh, this is a really good price.
Okay, sure. And what'd you do for subs?
So I did not build subs because it's an apartment, and I thought that building them out in the parking lot would probably not be a great idea. So I've got a pair of the PSA S1813Ms, which are
You really hate your neighbors.
I do.
Really
So
hate
I
your
want to keep them.
neighbors.
Oh wait, no, not those. I went down one size because I couldn't afford those. It's the 15s, but yes, because they're slightly smaller. It depends on how much room you have. The cost is not much different. It's just a question of whether or not you're tight on space.
So 18,
But you don't have to play them loud. You just need. The whole point is to cover all the frequency range with your available space and never hit distortion.
Fair. So I did 2 Ascendo the 12s. So I did 12-inch drivers.
Yeah.
They just modified the 12 active and it's gotten significantly better. But if you wanted to be more conscious or conscientious of your neighbors, tactile is probably the way to go. If you care about other human beings in a apartment environment. So did we miss anything? Was that it? I think we got it. So we all kind of went the same direction, except Jonathan, who totally threw a wrench in everybody's. I don't even know what I was going to say. Something, but went a totally different direction than I thought he was going to go. I thought he was joking, but no. No, he was not joking in any way, shape, or form. Oh.
You'd mentioned that last week in passing about headphones, and I didn't even think about that until you mentioned that particular amp. I'm like, oh, that's a really good idea.
So Skylake says, isn't this episode 100K? We did 100K last episode.
Yeah.
So we jumped back. We've done 20K, 50? I think we did 50. No, was it just 20 and 100?
Yes.
20, 100, and now 10. No, we did 5. We did 5, 20, 100, and 10. So we've done several, but we did 100 last week. So I suggest you go back and watch the other episode and then accuse me of spending too much because I don't understand how economics or pricing structures or anything works. So
I got a text from one of my buddies being like, Ryan's math doesn't work. That was way wrong.
It probably was. I don't know. I will gladly. It probably was. I was doing this one like, wait, Excel's not adding correctly, and it took me a while to get back and figure it out.
Yeah, there were a couple things in there that blew your budget pretty quickly.
They fell off John
832s and the 100,000 budget.
They fell off Jonathan's van after he found it and put him in his. I just had to chase after it for a little bit. All right, so we all watched. We got through that. I don't know how many more of those we'll do because we're running out of price points. I mean, the next one would be like $1 million, and
honestly, I think I'd be happy with the one from last week.
Yeah, I think most of us.
That's a great system that I would not really need to upgrade much from.
I think most of us would be.
Maybe a bigger projector.
So we decided that we were going to watch a movie.
Mm-hmm.
We all watched Oblivion. Which was cool. I watched it today. My wife actually liked it. Did anybody not like it?
I liked it.
I liked it.
It was an enjoyable movie.
My daughter didn't like it.
Bob, what does that even mean?
It was really predictable, but I liked the movie.
That's like my wife going, I liked it. It's like,
no, I had fun watching the movie, but it was very predictable.
I feel like I've watched that before, I thought, but I didn't remember the ending at all. So maybe I fell asleep last time or something. I don't know.
I think I've seen it only in a couple of demo clips, and I've never seen that movie because there was a bunch of stuff happening. I'm like, I've never seen any of this before, especially the end. I'd never seen that part.
Yeah, the ending kind of like, I just didn't remember that at all. I don't usually fall asleep in movies, so I'm not sure what happened there. Maybe I'm in the same boat, Bob. Maybe I've never sat down and watched it. I've just seen a demo clipped.
I'm imagining both of you having watched the entirety of Oblivion simply through people's demo clips. That's all it is. We look at Mark's binder, and it's just different breakdowns of the entire movie of Oblivion. That's all it is.
I've seen 2 scenes ever from A Star Is Born.
Yes.
A Star Is Born is actually a good movie.
I want to, but I've just never sat down and watched it. There's a bunch of stuff I got to watch like that. I've never seen all of 19 to 17.
That's not my favorite movie.
No, I like 1917, but we're losing topic here. Let's go back to Oblivion.
No, I like going off topic. It's fun.
So we're on Oblivion for like 30 seconds. Now
we're going to something else.
My problem with Oblivion is right at the very beginning when she had that first initial contact with Sally. I had a flashback to playing Metal Gear Solid 2 in college.
Should we warn people about spoilers?
It's part of the territory.
I know, but I'm saying if you guys don't want to, if you want to go watch Oblivion on your own,
Don't watch
Sure,
this
it's
part.
off.
don't watch the rest of it. Come back. We're going to
Skip
talk
ahead.
about what happens.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just wanted to warn people, not that we aren't going to do it. Just I wanted to
What'd
warn
you think
people.
of the sound? Like, rate it compared to other movies. Letter grade, high school letter grade, A, B, C, D.
Well, what we got to establish what is the benchmark.
And what version did you watch? Because I
Yeah,
watched
that's a
5.1.
good-
I watched 1080-5.1.
I
What'd
watched
you watch,
Dolby
Sean?
Atmos 4K HDR.
I did the same. What
I
are we putting as the benchmark for A grade?
I'd say like super tier. If you're A would be like a strong A plus would be like Gravity. Like
2049.
yes, stuff in that realm would be your strongest territory.
Okay.
Road intro, stuff like that.
I don't know.
I thought there were some scenes that were very well done. But again, I watched the 5.1 version, so some of these might have been better upmixed. I watched it upmixed because I was playing with the Trinov this last week, and I was trying a couple different settings. So I'd give it like a solid B plus. There were a couple scenes that I really liked that did really well in upmixed 5.1. That initial kind of plunge down through the thunderstorm was probably my favorite clip of the movie for sound wise. I thought the rain was nice and immersive. I thought that, the thunder strikes were really good, but as it continued on and you had some like big fight scenes, like I don't really remember those as being great or immersive. They were better visually than they were from a sound staging standpoint. Now that might be different on the Atmos one, because again, I didn't watch that version.
This thing's been used for movie clip demos in people's home theaters for years and years and years. So I'm familiar from that vantage with a lot of different systems. I felt like this one was probably a strong B plus. And the Atmos, there was a couple scenes that really took full advantage. Like when Morgan Freeman was in that machine gunner's turret effectively at the end and the shells were going all over the place. The ceiling speakers were lit up like crazy. That was neat. Thunderstorm scene was neat that Bob mentioned. One of the chase scenes was pretty good. But I just feel like this is what, 2010, 13, something like that.
13.
So in that time frame, I think movies have kind of surpassed it on sound design in Atmos a little bit. I'd say this is strong B, in my opinion.
Right,
you because so, Ryan, a little less, a little more.
No, I'm gonna give it in the C range because it was just average Atmos for me. It had some noteworthy demo scenes. The scene that brought it all together, if I'm looking at one scene cinematically from a video and audio perspective, it was the whole Tech 49 Jack Harper scene where he's rappelling down the hole, gets captured. And then after that, he meets Morgan Freeman, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
When he repels down the hole, he doesn't. He gets right.
Sorry,
by the drone.
Yeah. Isn't that the classic? That's the classic game. Maybe. Am I misremembering? There's one scene where he meets, and maybe it's later, where he meets Morgan Freeman, and that whole scene is just very cinematic. It's showcases a lot of what a theater can potentially do, but it's not. It's more intimate than in your face.
Now there's an interesting one. How did since you talked about the scene with Morgan Freeman, when he first had that hood pulled off his head and he was sitting there in the pitch black, how did that look on your system visually?
Looked really good.
Looked really good.
Because that's a very dark scene. Did that one render pretty well?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was fine. It probably would have been better if I had more contrast, but it was good.
I thought this movie was rendered really well with 4K HDR. It looked nice and sharp and like contrasty and everything. The whole movie looked really good, I thought.
So MW says he got some info on variable dynamic black or dynamic range. About Christine, he said the black floor goes from 0.04 to 0.003. Supposedly it's supposed to be pretty cool when it comes out. I haven't seen it yet, so I'm excited about it. It's supposed to be here next year.
Yeah, that could be really.
We'll see where that goes. But thanks for that little tidbit, MW. I thought it was a C. for me because it was just average for Atmos. It wasn't something that blew me away. I actually enjoyed one of the movies I watched prior to that was the new A Quiet Place. And people had kind of talked that they didn't think it was good as the first one and the second one. The third one was better than the second one, but it wasn't as good as the first one. The first one is an incredible movie to me. The third one wasn't bad. It had some pretty cool scenes with it. And I noted one where it was actually a really cool demo scene and very engaging intimately as well. It's pretty long, but that blew this movie away. And I think that goes back to what Jonathan was talking about, that they figured out more how to handle Atmos, which is kind of weird to say because Gravity is so freaking amazing and it was one of the first. So, but there's a lot more mixes now that blow Oblivion away.
Right. And it was a 5.1 movie, at least how it was released originally. So, I mean, these are remastered versions or reconversions. So it's a decent 5.1 movie. It's just, comparing it to a modern, well-mixed Dolby Atmos track, it's not going to be the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if has there been any conversions from like a 5.1 to a Dolby Atmos that have really just been A tier or S tier? I'm not sure I've seen that. Is there anything that comes to mind?
They
weren't Atmos to start with.
A really well-mixed 5.1 is still really good.
I agree with that, especially when you upmix it. Sometimes
really good.
Sometimes it can be really comparable.
Like
really.
Fury's 5.1.
Are you sure about that?
I'm pretty sure. I'm going to get called out like my math skills here.
No, Fury's Dolby Atmos, or can be anyway.
Well, the version I have is DTS.
Oh yeah, that's Dolby Atmos.
Well,
yeah, the 4K disc is Atmos.
I don't have that. And it's the 5.1 because I went back and looked at what it was actually outputting. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. It's incredible for 5.1. So if you get I think it doesn't matter. If you get a really, really, really good, well-mixed piece of content, you're going to have an amazing experience. I encourage people to not let, this isn't Atmos, be a detractor.
No, there's no reason to. There's a bunch of great movies that are just even on 2-channel.
There are some phenomenal movies that do not use Atmos. It's all about how you use it.
The picture quality. What'd you think on the picture quality? And now, Bob, you're one step back on 1080p, but still.
I watched an SDR 1080. I thought it was great.
That Morgan Freeman scene was amazing. Like the detail that you saw in there were a lot of close-ups in that movie.
Yeah.
It was really sharp.
I think so too. That's some of the
really sharp
A tier as far as video quality.
Yes.
Now I need to go watch the 4K version.
It was
good.
It was really good. That cinematographer, just amazing stuff.
And the CGI was really well done too. I mean, that stuff was all believable. It didn't. Didn't see any artifacts or weird stuff happening or anything.
I didn't see anything that didn't look like it belonged. A lot of times on the Griffin and with Mad VR, there'll be things that don't look like they should be there. Like you can tell that they're not supposed to be there. I didn't get pulled out of that movie at all for that. Everything looked like it was supposed to be there. All the CGI was very, very well done. It was just a beautifully shot movie. Yeah. I think they did what they needed to do. Everything felt like it fit. All of the costumes looked like they fit. The dialogue was great. Everything was easily heard and understood. It was a solid movie. Solid movie. What was your guys' favorite scene? Give me your favorite scene.
Definitely the initial that initial dive through the clouds.
Yeah,
that was great. Even the rainstorm in that was incredibly immersive. Just in 5.1, I really liked it.
Jonathan,
I liked one of the chase sequences probably. Although I think other movies have done those chases better. Dune, for instance, had a better chase scene through the sandstorm. And as far as some of the sounds, like Moonfall had better sound than some of the
chases. God.
Yes, agreed on the movie, but like the final thing when they're in the moon is fantastic audio wise.
You're talking about the part where they were getting chased by the drones through the canyon?
Yes, that was a lot of fun. I did,
But then you could do Top Gun over that. I mean, Maverick is a better version of a chase scene through a canyon like that.
yeah, I would agree. The probably my favorite scene was at the end when Morgan Freeman was in that, like that basically World War II
Capsule.
armored gun or something.
Oh,
Yeah,
that,
the little
yeah.
capsule. And he's just
No, he was in a
unloading
hollowed out drone.
Drone.
Yeah, I mean, and the sound, that was the best Atmos in the whole movie, in my opinion. The ceiling speaker, it was just all cohesive. There was shells flying everywhere. It sounded like you were in the thing. The ceiling speakers were all over the place. I mean, it was awesome. That part was great.
My favorite scene was the initial one where you meet Morgan Freeman for the first time, where he's been captured. That's my favorite scene.
Visually, it was a great scene.
That's my favorite.
Where he's lighting the cigar, and it's kind of like, yeah, it was well done.
It was very well done. That was used at Cedia when that first came out. That was a very, very good scene.
What was a little orange light that was by his head, though? He had the cigar, and then there was another like orange light right by his head that I was trying to figure out what it was going on.
I don't remember
it's in
that.
the film. I mean, it's not like an artifact on my projector or anything. It's just like in a weird placement, like a lens flare or something that's in a weird place.
I don't remember what that was. I don't remember seeing it. I had another question or statement or something, and I don't remember what it was.
The ending, Bobby, you saw the ending coming? I didn't.
Oh, from the very beginning. I mean, so my did you ever play any of the Metal Gear games?
No.
On PlayStation?
No.
So I don't want to, it's a very old game. So I don't know if anyone hasn't played it by now, then they kind of deserve a spoiler. But it was I played this in the 90s, probably late 90s, early 2000s. I can remember when Metal Gear Solid 2 came out. But you get Solid Snake and you get to play a character Raiden. And you're playing along, you're being guarded by, this voice that keeps coming up on the projector and talks, and like they did in the other Metal Gear games. Anyway, by the time it's over, you find out that the guy who's been kind of leading you all along is an AI. And so his face starts breaking up a little bit, and he looks a little bit not quite right, and some of the things he says are a little bit off, and then he just goes off the deep end. And there's at one point in time where as the AI breaks down, it literally tells you, like, you've been playing too long, you've been playing the game too long, turn off the console or something like that. It's time to go to bed. And I'd stayed up all night to finish this game. So I was literally playing this like 5 o'clock in the mornings. The sun's like rising outside, and the AI is telling me that I've been up too long and it's trying to turn the game off. And that was a kind of a fun memory for that. But yeah, when I first saw Sally kind of glitching there on the screen, I'm like, this is, yeah.
Well, they did a job trying to make it not be that, though. Like the guys, the scabs they were crawling around on all fours like some sort of alien beast. That was kind of weird if they're humans, right?
Yeah.
There were some holes in there, and I haven't watched reviews on it to come up with all the plot holes, but another one that they're following DNA trails the whole movie. And then all of a sudden at the end, they send the wrong person up to the spaceship, and suddenly they don't have this DNA tracking sniffing technology to.
Well, he was in a box, so you couldn't tell.
That's cheesy.
They put him in the box and froze him in the capsule. So I mean, you couldn't scan through the walls, I guess. Yeah, I know.
Just enjoy the movie, Jonathan.
Yeah. Well, those are only really two things that kind of like set me off. Otherwise,
but the whole like you can't cross the area and like that kind of gave that part away, and
it was predictable.
That kind of came from another movie that
I liked it. I was surprised.
I liked it. I think it was a good movie, but it was a predictable sci-fi kind of genre movie where there was some foreshadowing at the beginning that's what Tom Cruise was going to do, and that's how all of this was going to transpire. So yeah, I liked it though. I thought it was good. I enjoyed it.
There were a couple other ones from that same era that did the same kind of, person switch thing at some point in time, and similar movies like that. So, I mean, it didn't detract from the movie. It was a good movie. It was just that plot's been done in other movies. I don't know which ones were first. So,
my daughter watched it with me, just my 13-year-old daughter. Not
yeah. You
else.
said she didn't like it.
She said, I don't really like this movie, Dad. And I said, do you not like it because you don't understand it, or do you understand it and you don't like it? She goes, both. so I spent some time explaining it as best I understood it. And then she said, it's just, there's too much going on. I don't know if I like it. So that was her perspective.
It was a very much Independence Day storyline. kind of.
With a little Matrix element too, when you see the thousands of Tom Cruises in their little nesting cells.
Yeah. Yeah. That is true. All right, next movie. We think somebody was talking about Riddick in comments.
Oh,
I love those movies.
which one?
I don't know. I
They're
don't
not all
care.
the same quality. I don't
No,
think.
they're not. But they're all still good.
I like Chronicles of Riddick. I think that's my favorite of the batch.
Is that the third one?
Yeah.
That's
My
a good
favorite's Pitch Black.
movie. Yeah.
Is that the second one?
It's the granddaddy.
The first one?
It's the first one that came out in.
Is that the one where
Theatrically.
they're running outside, or is that the one where they're in the prison?
The prison
Outside.
is the third one.
No, the prison.
Pitch Black is when they're running and they crash land on the planet and they have all of the monsters trying to kill them, and they have to get off the planet.
And that one's
And he has
animated
this-
version of it too, right? There is an animated version of the second one, I think.
I don't know.
There's an animated version of one of them, or an animated one in that series. I can never keep track of which one's which. I've seen them all.
I like Pitch Black, but I enjoyed all of them. As
The
strange
third
as
one
that
was
is to
the
say.
biggest production out of all of them.
Should we watch one of them? Or do we want to pick something that none of us have seen? Probably one that none of us have seen. I just
I'm
saw
all for that,
somebody
too.
mention it.
I like Chronicles of Riddick in my head more than it probably holds up, because at the 2017 crawl, we decided we'd watch that as kind of a late night, like retire of the evening type thing at my place with some guys. And like, we only made it about an hour in and people were like, time for bed. So I don't think it held up as well as I remember.
K-Man says do the movie District 9,
That's a good movie too.
which I've seen.
I've
Have you seen
that
it,
one.
Jonathan? Yeah, we've
Yeah,
all seen
I
it.
didn't like that one that much.
We got to find something that we haven't seen. What haven't we seen?
District 9 wasn't terrible, but it also wasn't what I'd call good.
No?
It was a pretty good movie for the budget that it had.
What was the budget? Real low?
Not much.
You know, speaking of that, I watched a YouTube video, and I might have sent it out to you guys. I sent it out to some people. I don't know if I made it to you guys or not, where they recreated the Rey Skywalker lightsaber cut of one of the, like, I don't know, X-Wings that went by or something.
Yes, where she jumps over. It was a TIE
And
fighter.
they did it with just like VFX Studio that's like $200 software. And he did it himself. He went out in the field. And if you guys haven't seen it, I'll have to send it to you. It's pretty cool. It looks as good as the darn movie does, and it's with $200 software. So the software is really coming around on this stuff as far as,
Mhm.
you know, the ability of it. Like, oh, it's really pretty impressive, Ryan.
No, I'm not doubting it.
That's why I always default to movies that use practical effects. There's just something
Okay.
nostalgic or
Practical effects. Have you guys seen Alien Romulus yet?
yes.
Darn it. I was hoping Bob hadn't seen it. I haven't seen it yet either.
I mean, I'll watch it again.
Because they went back to practical effects in the Alien series.
If you guys haven't seen it, I'd recommend that one. It's not a. I like the practical effects. The story is predictable, but
I heard this story was basically a rehash of the original. Like they just keep doing the original over and over again.
it's a rehash of a story. But they used. I mean, the tech was the same original Aliens tech with push buttons and CRT tubes. And I mean, it was not like watching a later Star Trek series where you're 300 years in the past and everything is better than on the original Enterprise.
Have you seen The Wild Robot?
Not yet.
God, I'm struck. One of you has seen one and the other one hasn't.
I'm not allowed to watch The Wild Robot till after Christmas.
It's so good. I was going to watch that again.
I really want to watch it,
It's really good.
but my
What
wife
else?
wants to read the kids the books first.
Have you seen Twisters?
No.
No.
I've seen it, but we can do that one again. I'm trying to get one that the majority of us have not seen it, so that would be good. What else? I'm trying to go through my movies to name stuff that maybe I haven't watched yet. Yeah, they did release Alien Romulus on VHS, which I thought was funny.
Did they really?
Yeah, they did. That they did.
Somebody mentioned we could watch Red One on Prime. It's the Dwayne Johnson, like, crime syndicate. Not syndicate, really, but little.
I'd watch that.
I saw the
I haven't
original
seen
one.
it.
That was pretty fun. I mean, it's kind of dumb, but pretty fun too.
Well, it's supposed to be dumb.
Yeah, let's watch that one.
You want to do Red One?
None of us have watched
Red
it, right?
One.
It's on Amazon Prime. Do you
The
all
Christmas
have
movie.
No, it's not a Christmas movie.
It is a Christmas movie.
It is a Christmas movie.
Wait, then it's not what I was thinking. There's a new
That's not what it should be.
Dwayne Johnson, like that
Yeah.
thing.
Red
That's a
One.
Christmas movie.
Yes.
Wait,
It's
there's
Christmas
a polar bear.
themed.
There's a polar bear in the back of the picture.
It's a Christmas themed action movie.
Oh, that's not what I was thinking at all. That's not got Gal Gadot in it. Who's that lady?
I mean, the last
Is that Lucy Liu?
the last weirdly themed Christmas movie I think I saw was Santa's Sleigh with Goldberg.
All right, Red One seems appropriate. It's themed for this time. Let's watch.
Let's
It's
just do
probably
Red One. It'll
All
probably
right.
be terrible. Or it'll be fantastic. It'll be like, this is the best Atmos movie I've ever seen.
Oh, it's PG-13. Darn it.
So we'll have to do that.
Yeah, I was hoping kids could watch it too, but not a PG-13.
Okay, so Red One. You guys haven't been asking very many questions. I've been starring them, and not very many have come in. So
They're
if
all
you guys
trying
have
to
any
buy Smyth
questions,
Analyzer A16s right now.
Yeah, I need to go check that out if I go to Expo this year. I want to go.
we'll go. All right. So we have 6 questions so far. If you guys see any more, star them. Boyd Wellman asks, any advice on watching 3D movies on a JVC NZ800?
Does it support 3D these days?
I think so.
Did they take that out? I haven't watched a 3D movie since.
They took it out of the NZ5 and 7, but
Is
I
it
don't
5
know
and
if they
7
have
removed
on
it?
8 or 900.
Yeah. So it's in the 800 and 900.
I haven't watched a 3D movie in forever. I don't generally like watching them at home.
I have not watched one in probably since the original Avatar. It's the last 3D movie I watched.
The active glasses make it. I mean, we're all poo-pooing it, but the active glasses make it not worth watching. You can't. It's not comfortable. At home. Passive glasses are the way to do it.
I do want to try it on the Griffin because I think the Griffin can do it without
It'd be bright enough. A lot of times you lose too much brightness doing 3D.
Supposedly it'll do 240 per eye.
It's not like Ryan can't just turn the thing up and hit 600 and put it at 600 nits.
You're right.
So we should try it. I want to.
But do you have glasses? What glasses are compatible with Christie?
I have no idea. I'm just speaking what I've heard. I don't know. Supposedly it's supposed to be really good.
I have 2 pair of 3D glasses upstairs in a drawer somewhere from my Panasonic. My Panasonic Plasma TV.
That's the last ones I have are from that.
And I think I had 1 movie or 2 movies in 3D, and I didn't even remember what they were. They're in a drawer somewhere. And I
You guys
remember
are missing
watching
these questions.
But I can't do anything.
Questions. Most people are just talking about how good different movies are.
Slackers.
I don't have the ability to do that.
Well,
somebody mentioned She-Hulk in passing. Pass.
No.
She-Hulk. No.
Pass.
Austin Smith says bedroom theater, 24 feet by 13 feet by 9 foot, projector near back wall above second row, primarily noise, but secondarily heat, closed in hush box or just a ceiling mounted box with an open front. That is a long bedroom.
That's about the size of mine. Mine's really long.
Projector is
It's over the garage.
I don't know.
Depending on how loud it is.
Well, are you on the long wall or the short wall? I'm assuming you're on the short wall.
No, he's got to be the long wall because he's got 2 rows.
Oh, he's got 2 rows. That's right.
Yeah. Most projectors, I wouldn't even really care about it. Like
Yeah.
Depends
Jonathan,
on the projector.
you've got an NZ. You've had an NZ7, LS 12,000, several JVCs and Epsons before that. Has it ever been an issue for you in the back
Not
of yours?
really. Mine's like right here, and here's my seating. If it's like low 30 dB, by the time it gets to your main seat, it's not very loud.
The
Not-
JVC or the Epsons are quiet. They're not.
I had an
very noisy.
NZ9 mounted directly above my head in my previous theater, and it wasn't a problem. The content would turn on, and you'd forget about it.
Right. Once the content's playing. I mean, the JVCs are a little louder. I don't know about the current generation, but the previous generations, if you have E-Shift on, they all have that E-Shift whine. I guess it's quieter on the new ones. The fan noise is definitely louder than the Epsons. The Epsons are pretty quiet.
All right, Jonathan, I'm going to let you do questions, and I'm going to star them. How's that?
There's no more. We're at the end of the comments. I just read through all of them.
There's literally 2 questions. Paul A, Jonathan, if you were to upgrade speakers, Paul A, do you guys have any thoughts on Anthem?
Starred them.
Yeah, they just came in.
I've watched them get starred.
Whatever. You read the questions, and I'll watch the stars.
All right, so here we go. Grave Danger. Have you heard any information on JTR's new speaker? The center
see
channel.
those?
The center channel.
No, but Youthman's been talking about it quite a bit, so you might just check out his commentary on it.
That's the one that's the MTM with 2 passive radiators on the end.
It's not even a working sample, is it? Didn't they say it's just it's just for show right now to kind of show that concept?
2 passive radiators, look like a symmetrical horn in the center, 6-inch or 6.5-inch drivers, and he said it was like 122 dB sensitive.
No, total output, not sensitive.
Oh, sorry.
Use that horn, that compression driver that he likes using with the how it wasn't very deep, was it? In the
No, it was super shallow.
So how's he? It's not going to fit that because the horn has a long neck, and then the driver magnet on the the compression driver normally uses is very big.
I think it's a different.
It's got to be a very different design to be that narrow.
Well, the standard horn is larger than that anyway.
Anthony says it's not symmetrical.
No,
I thought it was. I'm judging from the pictures. 97 dB sensitive. Okay. Well, I graciously and excitedly await measurements. That's what I'm ready for on that one.
What's your opinion on the Clips RP line for dedicated home theater? I'm running 9.1.4 with dual SVS PB3000 and 2 near field subs. Clips RP line. None of us, the 3 of us are big, huge Clips enthusiasts, so we might not know these. Reference Premiere is what it stands for.
Yeah.
I'm sure I've heard them, maybe even at M-Wave, because there was some at M-Wave, but I don't remember the model number. Do you remember the model number that were at M-Wave, Ryan? Bob, either one?
I do not, unfortunately.
I don't. Historically, clips can be pretty bright. The only clips that I really ever kind of like are the Heritage series.
Yes, that and the clip horns. Yeah, I've only heard those 2 and really enjoyed them.
Most of the other clip stuff just is too bright for my liking. It doesn't mean that it's bad for you. It's just not for me.
I went out of my way to go listen to the Palladiums when they came out, and I didn't love them. I thought they were fine.
So one of the guys that had Palladiums here in our group, and he gave me the remote, and I said, let me see how they do it reference, and they couldn't handle reference. So I was not interested at that point.
No, when I don't know, was it 6-8 years ago, something like that? They had that whole Palladium home theater set that was like 1 or 2 subs. It was the big towers, and like sides and rears. And they were clearancing them out for a crazy low price. There was some dealer in Vegas that bought like all the remaining stock and was selling them for next to nothing. And I was up in Michigan driving my brother up to med school, or driving my brother's stuff up to med school. And I found a dealer up there that had a pair of them to go listen to. And they were fine. They just weren't anything special.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like that one was one where Clips was trying to get into the high-end cabinet design, where the cabinet looks really nice and you're putting all your money there.
They looked better in pictures than they did in person. They looked really chintzy in person.
I think that's an important point, though, Jonathan, and I really want people to understand this. Cabinets are expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a big part of where your money's going when you buy a speaker, a tower, or a bookshelf, is the cabinet. They are hugely expensive, especially when you get well-finished ones, custom finishes, all that stuff. It takes a lot of time to do that. There's a lot of labor, and that's a big chunk of money. So if you compare to how other companies are doing it when they're doing things with just black boxes and they're spraying them with Duratex or some other thing to hide flaws, they can save a considerable amount of money doing that, and they can drive the price points down, and you're potentially paying a cheaper amount or paying the same amount, but you're getting more, maybe theoretically, out of them. So just want to highlight that cabinets are expensive. So don't discount an expensive speaker that's got a super nice cabinet. That thing was probably expensive to make, and they're expensive to ship and pack.
Yeah. But it's important if you're going to have your speakers out sitting next to a TV, or you're going to have them, in your living room, or you're going to have them in a 2-channel setup. There's a lot of that. Aesthetics matters a lot. But if you're going to be putting them in a theater room and you're going to be sitting in the dark all the time, you don't want big, shiny, gloss black speakers there because everything reflects off of them.
Yep. Super chat. Christian Kansichi. Christian, I'm going to learn how to say your name one day.
Thank you, Christian.
Thanks for the $5, man. Much appreciated. Buckeye power ratings on their website are measured 1 kilohertz at 1% THD. Are full range specs similar? Any other amp brand recommendations? You should be able to find the HypeX Impurify module specs on Audio Science Review. HypeX and Purify are both very objective and publish a lot of their data. So should be very, very easy to find. He just does that because it's a benchmark rating that is easy to compare across to different websites or different measuring mediums or reviewers. So that information is out there. The HypeX and Purify modules are some of the best. The Purify will drive virtually anything, and the HypeX, especially their new ones, are the same. They can handle anything.
Yeah, the Class D stuff is very good these days,
and
it doesn't burn a lot of heat.
They are near. I mean, not near. You cannot hear them. They are transparent.
Yeah, they don't do any coloration, which, depending upon your preference, may or may not be a good thing.
Except Jonathan, he can hear them.
No.
Another super chat. Christian again says, Klipsch Jubilees would make a killer LCR. I think, yeah, they would. I like the Jubilees. They're just big.
How do they compare size-wise to Black Swan?
Oh, those are huge.
No, the Jubilees are bigger.
They're definitely bigger.
They're enormous.
Yeah.
Maybe the size of like a first-generation Volkswagen Beetle.
I mean, they're what, 7 feet tall?
I don't know. They're really big.
I'm looking at this picture of them on eBay, and they're taller than the two guys standing next to them. Oh no, it's on a platform. So they're what, 5.5 feet tall or something like that?
Yeah, they're very
I've
big.
never heard them.
They're part of the Heritage Collection. That is some cool. Klipsch makes some really cool stuff.
They're cool. I don't like, personally, I would never own a pair. They're not my jam, but they're not bad speakers. Those are cool.
Yeah.
I approve of those, Klipsch.
That's high. That's all high end stuff. That's all classic, like, 60s, 70s designs. So it's all the retro styling, and they're good sounding speakers.
Yep. All right, Jonathan.
Yeah. So MW says, when you level match speakers, do you let the EQ software do it? Basically, meaning, do you let auto EQ do its thing and then just call it good, or do you do it yourself?
It depends on your auto EQ, how good it is. Some of them can do a good job, and some of them do not do a good job. And some of them you have to level match beforehand to make them work well.
Yeah, I feel like I found Odyssey usually is within a dB or two on most systems I measured, but that also includes the variance in the bundled mic. If you got a bad mic or whatnot, you don't know. They just come off of assembly line, and there's a plus or minus 2.5 dB variance that's considered acceptable, like a deviation. So that could be a 5 dB swing from one mic to the other. But generally speaking, in mass, like on the whole, the Odyssey does a fairly good job of getting accurate. I always double check, and usually there is a little correction that I do.
Do you level match before Odyssey?
I level match. I use Odyssey to set distances and SPL trims, and then I turn it off. And so there's no before or after. Like, I turn it off, so there's no EQ applied. And then I set the levels based off that. So, yeah, mine's post Odyssey, just to set distances. And then there's usually a dB variance or so that I'll catch with my Omni mic.
I usually do both. Do it before and do it after. You always have to double check auto EQ. It can get close. Sometimes it does a really good job. Sometimes it screws up and you got to run it again, or need to make a little correction, or any of that stuff. So it's in all the
sometimes, like we
calibration.
talked about last week, you have to apply a little subjectivity to it because, like I'd mentioned, that there's a room that the surrounds at 75 were just too loud. It was too live of a room, and it was overwhelming the room. So
You
subjectively turn them down.
You got to do that. Something may not sound right, and it's probably an interaction of the room that your ears are picking up that you don't subjectively like, and you need to make a change to it. That's why calibrations and the human element is so important.
Especially if you're spatially averaging your room EQ, you might not be sitting where it might be spatially average, but it might not be average or the best for your individual listening seat. So
Paul A says, what are your suggestions for an 18 or larger sub for people who won't transform their wall into a 50-inch sub? Best bang for buck and cost no object.
Cost no object.
Cost no object?
There are many ways that this could be done.
Oof.
I think he's talking about smaller subs, so like an 18 or a 21, probably in that realm. I would assume from his question.
Those are not small subs, though.
And yeah, 18s aren't small. And they're going to be a 2-foot cube. Well, no, 18s will be a 20-inch cube.
Small.
You'll be a 20-inch cube on that, and a 21s will be a 24-inch cube ish. If you want smaller than that, that's going to have massive output. I mean, the only thing I can think of is that flat Ascendo 30, whatever that thing is. Is it 32?
28.
28. Because it's a low profile driver. But I mean, that's a cost no object sub. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, they only fit in so much space. And how many do you want?
The sub that Bob is talking about is a 28-inch driver. It's square. Like the driver is a square. It's not circular. It has 4 voice coils, 1 in each corner. And it is designed, the reason that sub exists is because it was specifically designed with waveforming in mind. It's meant for shallow walls. It's under a foot deep, like it's 10 inches or something deep. It's super shallow, weighs over 200 pounds. They're not fun to move. And they're designed to be able to put those subs in the front and the back, and they can handle both high frequency and infrasonic. Now, the compromise there is they're not as good as a 32, though they have the same surface area, but they are significantly smaller. And in the mid-bass
smaller
regions,
in depth.
They're also smaller width and height. The 32 is significantly larger. It's a much bigger sub.
That thing is basically 40 inches by 38 inches by 11.
Yeah. So
it's huge, but it's not deep.
They, what was I saying? They're designed for waveforming, and the compromise is they're just not quite as good as the 32. So they don't have quite as much extension in the high frequencies. Not that you need to extend into 600 hertz with a subwoofer, but they can't dig quite as low as the 32 can because it's super rigid, so it doesn't have as much excursion.
Yep.
So cost no object, a wall of 21s, 28s, or 32s would be amazing. But Brian's doing that wall of 12s.
And it's progressing. He's laying wood now.
Yep.
So that we'll have an answer to that shortly. So he's got those JBL drivers from Best Buy that go on sale every once in a while for $30, $35 a piece.
How many does he have?
He's going to have
or something,
40 something, I think, right? Yeah. So it's going to be like the entire front wall, with the exception of having some room for the LCR, but it's going to be the entire front wall, floor to ceiling, left to right, and it'll be something. I mean, I really think it'll be something.
Yeah,
it'll be cool.
So much drivers, and they're all like in a single plane. I bet there's just going to be like we've seen that on those videos on YouTube with that Mexican semi truck that has a ton of 15s on a wall, and it can do hair tricks outside because it's a singular plane. Yep. You're going to have the same sort of effect in a home theater room with a bunch of 12s, I think. Maybe not to the same degree as the 15s, but in the same ballpark. I mean,
it'll be cool.
It's going to be impressive.
It'll be cool.
Close to that planar wave, though, just doing, 4 subs mounted quarter in, quarter up.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, we're looking forward to seeing that. That'd be talk about best bang for buck. He's going to have like a couple $1,000s in the whole thing, like the wood and everything.
Increases complexity though a little bit.
I'm really looking forward to seeing how that turns out. I mean, I had thought about doing something like that before too.
So MW says, so a 50 will be great at under 20 hertz, but not good at 100. The 50 is
that 50 is amazing.
Really good at everything.
Yeah.
It is super rigid. It was funny having Jeffrey come over and punch it, like literally punch it. And he wouldn't shy away from asking other people to kick it and punch it. It's a straight up huge carbon fiber driver.
Yeah.
And it's got around 70 millimeters of excursion. So at high frequencies, it's a monster. Like
no, he was doing the choke from REW at like 2K through that thing, and
it's a monster.
You're gonna have people coming over you don't know visiting your theater,
just kicking it,
walk up and kick it. Like
kick
I said, I could on podcast.
Kick it.
Yeah, no, their 32 also plays really high and plays
up
really
to 600 hertz.
Yeah, so neither of those, and a lot of the Pro Audio 21s will play reasonably high too.
Yep.
So I mean, the bang for your buck. I mean, it's hard to beat Pro Audio 21s in either a DIY box.
I thought you were going to say the 50 was bang for your buck. I'm like,
no. That falls under the money no object category. And bang for your buck, Pro Audio 21s are a great way to go.
Yeah. Good question though. Have I seen the 70 millimeter? Yes. It's scary. The 2,000-pound sub cabinet was walking. It was moving. No, Siri. So you can't help me with a walking sub. Yeah, I'm aware. Anyway.
Is that before you nail it down to the floor?
We're ready to go back to the comments here. Okay, so this gentleman, we feel like we've answered this before, but maybe not for Tiki Time. Do any of you have a UPS on your home theater equipment?
With laser projectors, it's not nearly as big of a deal. With older bulb projectors with expensive bulbs, it was not a bad idea to allow a cool down cycle in the event of a power loss. Everything else, no. Whole home surge protection is a great way to do any massive stuff and kind of level out line noise. It's not going to protect your equipment in a lightning strike, speaking from an experience, but it'll protect your house. You could throw a UPS if you have really noisy power, if you live in an apartment or you live in an area that is questionable, because a lot of those computer UPSs will put out a well-mannered sound wave that you could use to power a processor or a DAC or something like that if you really cared about it. But big power amps and things like that have power supplies that filter it all out.
I don't have a UPS.
I have one on my projector, but it's probably legacy from when I had bulbs. And it's also running my computer, so it's not like I would get rid of it for that purpose.
When was the last time you changed the battery in it?
I replaced it outright probably within the last year because the batteries die every 3 or 4 years.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of people that still have a UPS in their computer that they got 10 years ago that wouldn't even get 5 seconds worth of runtime.
Right. Well, the more expensive ones will beep at you.
Will beep at you, yeah.
Not let you rest.
Beep.
Yeah. All right. So this next comment I'm going to skip. Do you guys have any? This one will bring up Paul A. Do you guys have any thoughts on Anthem processors and their room correction?
Used it for years.
Go ahead, Bob.
ARC is pretty good. I never had any issues with it. I enjoyed the results it gave me. I did not have the current generation with the sub-phase alignment. I was on an AVM 60, but it did a good job. It didn't have the flexibility that I got out of the Lindorf, but it does have a nice feature, depending on how your room is set up, where you can have 4 different calibrations stored at the same time. So when I had that set up, I had like retractable screen up, retractable screen down, with and without subs, 2-channel only as different room corrections that worked pretty well. The new one with the sub-phase alignment, I had only tried one time, and that was at M-Wave 2 years ago. And we ran into some issues because you could not change the bass level that it ran test tones at. And so if the room was too noisy, it didn't work, or it caused a lot of problems. So we had to throw a whole bunch of, or I had to basically kind of because we were running through a digital RCA switch to do the room correction shoot off or comparison. I kept having to increase the output gain on the test tones to make it work. But that was just because it was a really noisy commercial space. You would never run into that issue at home. But it's a pretty solid room correction system. I mean, it does a good job. You can tune things pretty easily in it. It's not hard to run. And I mean, it's a pretty good solution. There's nothing really wrong about it. They all do a pretty good job.
So a question I have on that one and this has been years old, so I don't know if it's still valid anymore, but there used to be some talk about how it didn't handle implementing subwoofers terribly well. Is that fixed or resolved, or is that in a problem anymore?
So the one I had was only single channel, so it couldn't do multiple independent subs. The subs were batch on the AVM60. I have not had detailed experience on the newer ones. I didn't have a 70 or 90 with the multiple independent subs.
Right. My knowledge on that is older as well. I haven't heard anything on the 70 or 90 as far as that goes with subs.
I think they did fairly well at M-Wave.
Yeah. So the new one does, the new one as part of its calibration system does phase alignment with the fronts on the 70 and 90 for whether it's 2 subs or 4 subs. I don't know how well that works in person because I've not had that in my space. But the other one did fine. But again, like all the other ones, they do better when you put them in the right starting spot. So, the more you set it up beforehand, the better it does.
We did a shootout with auto EQ stuff, and it's dated now because it was probably 2012, 2013 timeframe. Anthem did well in that. Like, it was a highly regarded, subjectively chosen one. Mm-hmm. One of the things I will note on that, the report lies. They come out with that nice little pretty report.
Yeah. That's
your initial response, and here's how perfect it is now. It's like a line, and I've seen that posted on the forums over the years and so forth, saying like, "Look what ARC was able to do my thing." Well, we did before and after measurements of all those audio EQs when we did that testing.
Yeah,
and the report was a lie. Like,
no, I was
theoretical. It's an estimation.
Yes, it's not really a measured response. But
they do tried.
But they're cheating a little bit because they do put the measured response in there to start with. Like that's what they're giving you, their before data, and then their after data is the theoretical. But they're not being truthful because their after data should be what's measured after, and that's not what they show you.
Well,
at least in that version,
because they don't measure after though.
They don't measure after. What they're doing is the after theoretical is just what the filters theoretically would give you if it was in a perfect room.
Well, it was kind of like a.
It's not a good way to present it. Yes,
but they all do that. Every single one of those manufacturers does that.
Yeah, they don't unless they specifically measure after calculating filters. And think of any of the ones any of the ones you've ever run do a secondary calculation after it's already done.
They should.
So they don't, or a secondary run.
I don't think most of them give you like a nice detailed report like that. ARC had a really nice report.
Trinov has a beautiful detailed report, but it also doesn't measure afterwards either.
Accurus supposedly does though. I think they do an after, maybe. Theirs is also short for how they're doing it. They don't have as many measurements, if I remember correctly. But I've never used them, so I don't know. Good question though.
Yeah, you always got to pull up REW and check.
What do you think about using your JBL speakers, these CBT70J1s, horizontally under a TV? Not a good idea. And the reason why is they're asymmetrical. They're J-shaped. So if I can draw it on the screen here, it's like this. It's like a curve. So
it's like a banana.
How would you line that up so that it was aimed correctly? You'd have probably also comb filtering in a way, to a degree. I'm not sure how noticeable that would be in real life, but the off-axis stuff wouldn't be good either because it's 150-degree dispersion horizontally, which if you laid it on its side would become vertically. So now you're spraying a ton of sound at the ceiling and the floor, and your vertical dispersion, when they're mounted properly, is only 27 degrees. That becomes your horizontal dispersion, which means you wouldn't have good coverage of your left and right seats in most rooms, with a wide room anyway. So they're a very complex, clever design, but they're a specific use case, and laying them down flat is not the right use case. No. If you want to learn more on them, there's really neat. Well, I have a thread compiled on AVS Forum that has a lot of information on how they work and what their technology does. And Don Keel, the guy that kind of brought this to speaker technology, has a 9-video They're all short. They're like 5 or 6 minutes each, but a 9-video overview of how CBT technology works. And that's super interesting to watch. And you'll understand after you watch that why it wouldn't be a good idea to lay them horizontally.
The correct answer is don't use the center channel.
There you go. That's
Shut up,
one way
Bob.
to do it. All right. So here's the next question. Are there any cool showrooms or demos to check out in California? We're a bunch of Midwestern boys. We don't know that really.
I haven't lived in California since the 90s.
I don't have a good answer for that. I wish I did. Sorry.
We could tell you about Missouri, but not so much California.
Yeah.
Kansas. Next one. Austin Smith. Why you guys got me talking tonight? My voice is all broken up. How did that newer clip sub pan out? I never heard about it. At M-Wave 2 or 3 years back, you guys had one. It sounded surprisingly good. I haven't heard much of it since, though.
They're on sale for cheap.
It's all over the place.
Yeah.
You made Ryan mad just now.
What are you talking about?
The only
It's
thing
everywhere.
What's the only negative about that sub? They're just huge, right?
They're on sale for dirt cheap. $900 for the 16. I mean, SVS can't touch that price. SVS is what, 20, low 2000s for this equivalent type sub?
I mean, you can get a 16 if you watch the sales and follow Jonathan around on his bicycle chasing the trucks. I mean, for $1,000.
$900.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy.
So they're really good for the money.
Yeah, they surprised all of us. I was a little cynical, to be honest, and
we all were.
They did better than I expected.
Yes, Audioholics actually has positive things to say about them.
Mm-hmm.
It reviews well,
even at its retail price, which is closer to $2,000. It reviews well compared to competitors. At that price, it's like outstanding.
Yes, it'll piss your partner off because it's enormous. But how do they make money? It's huge, and they have to ship it. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Well, when you manufacture all the parts in-house or through OEM.
I guess when a 54-foot, 53-foot truck shows up with nothing but 16-inch subwoofers, spread it out. It's good, Austin. It's solid sub for the money.
Mako Flax asks another question about my speakers. And what I'm going to do instead of just talking about this is link to the AVS forum thread that'll give you a rundown of a bunch of different links you can check out. There is really cool tech that's involved in it that makes it very much different from even line arrays. Like, it's not a traditional line array. It's a CBT, which is totally different technology. I'll put a link in chat. We don't have to talk about that again here. Okay, next one. I messed up. I didn't fill a riser. I built that 6 foot by 10 foot by 1 foot with insulation. How bad is that affecting my sound? REW shows quite a long delay up to 45 hertz. Is that riser the cause?
Is it open on one side or is it completely closed?
Man, I don't know how to answer that because I built this big riser back here and I don't have any weird stuff happening in my room.
It could be acting as a resonator.
It absolutely could be. Like, if REW is showing you something you didn't have before and now you do,
then that's what's causing it.
Yeah, then you know your answer.
Sorry. I mean,
you can fill it with sand, man.
I suggest you do a test and you take the entire riser out, take a measurement, put the riser back in, and take another measurement. Don't do that.
Look, you can buy some insulation.
It's probably not the riser that's field, though.
Just
make it inert.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe that's not the right answer. Maybe it'll make it too dead, but I'd like to.
You don't want it would do nothing if you filled it with insulation. It's not going to hurt or help, really. It shouldn't.
No, if it's sealed, it's not going to do any difference. I mean, the only thing you could try to do is if you left it open.
It could lessen the low frequencies, though, because as they reflect back, they'll get absorbed by the inert material in the riser. So
the big question is going to be:
will have effect.
Is it resonating? I mean, can you feel the surface resonate?
You need to. If you know the before measurement and you know the after measurement, as Jonathan said, you have your answer. It's just sometimes we don't like the answer and we try and find reasons that answer isn't correct.
Yeah, well, we didn't help him, but we don't know the answer, man, because we don't know your room dimensions or anything like that. You can plug this kind of stuff into REW, it'll give you calculate it for you, but that's really an acoustician's job, and little bit beyond us, we would do a before and after measurement, like what you're talking, and figure out what's going on.
RAW should be able to tell you, though, given that change in a room, what it would do theoretically. Granted, that is theoretically. There's a lot of variables that go into that. But as I said, if you got the measurements, you got your answer. Sometimes we just don't like the answers.
The other issue might have moved your measurement mic into a room mode from where you had it before.
Ernie says, I have 18-inch full Marty in my 17 by 12-foot room. I have a second driver to build a second one. Should I do it? Or should I build a near field sub or two instead?
Is the full Marty the ported one or the sealed one?
Full Marty's
Ported.
the ported.
The ported
It's
one.
the big boy.
Big boy.
Build a second. That's my advice. Build a second one and then get a near field as well.
Well, be careful about that though, because you're going to be mixing your sealed near fields with your ported mains.
I think with one near field and two front big full Martys, I think you could pull it off, because you just have to apply the right HPF. Is it a second order Butterworth or something like that? We'd have to look it up to know. We talk about this too often. I should just memorize it. There is a filter that will make ported and sealed play nice. You can look it up on AVS forum. Apply that one in your DSP and you're good. Even if you don't, those full Martys are going to have so much more headroom, and your near field is going to be turned down because it's right behind you and you don't want it to be audible, and you're really just having the near field for sealed. I think you could pull that off with 3 subs, even if you don't have the right
He's
HPF.
calling us bad influences.
But I think the HPF is the correct HPF is obviously the right way to go. And it's just the click away. I can get it for you on this podcast if you want, but I'm already behind on my CBT thing I said I'd look up. So you pull up the next one. Let me get these couple links and I'll put them in chat. I'll give you Jonathan, one, and I'll give one for the other gentleman.
As Jonathan said, the correct answer is more subwoofers and a near field.
Yes, clearly.
You can never have too many. And it's not ideal to have to overcome those phase differences with port tune and the sealed. And it's not ideal, but it can be done.
Where'd you build them into your couch?
Trying to figure out. Todd says this is more of an exclamation. Your ears pop when standing in front of the sub at reference volume. He's specifically talking about the 50. Mine never did.
No.
I've been in front of it.
Define reference level. I mean, if you're talking a 105 with peaks, then absolutely not. I mean, we've been in that room multiple times with bass at hitting 130.
Well, the bass, that was the overall volume, was like 135.
But that's only in the low frequency though. When you're playing at those levels, that's under 100 hertz. And then if you look above 100 hertz in that 1K region,
there's not a lot of energy.
That's usually at like 95 to 99 at those levels.
Adam Pelt sat in front of it for a week and he was okay. Maybe he can't hear anymore and he has hearing aids. I don't know, but he's okay. And we calibrated for a week, so it's not popping yet. Lewis Holloway says, thank you guys for all the invaluable info. I'm looking online for acoustic panels. Any recommendations? Build them yourself.
Build them yourself. It depends on what you want to do with them. So if you want to build, first thing before you do any of that is measure your room and figure out what you actually need. And then after that, if you're just looking for base absorption's easy to build. And whether you're using Rockwool or you're using Owens Corning 703, those are not expensive to build, especially if you have anyone with a table saw that you can knock them out super quick and super cheap.
Might lose a hand, but you'll have acoustic panels.
All right, I'm back. I put the 2 links in chat.
But if you're looking to fine tune your room and you're looking for specific frequency absorptions, then there's a porous absorbent calculator that you can look for online that does multi-level stuff, that does offsets from walls. You can kind of get your kind of absorption bands. And I think the latest version does the percent open plates on the front. So you can do the equivalent of having those diffusion plates on front.
Does it take into consideration your speaker's characteristics?
No, that's just the absorbent characteristic of the individual panel.
So that is something else that you need to consider. Is you really need to look at the measurements for the speaker itself and what it's doing, because some speakers are going to benefit more from absorption behind them, on the sides of them. Some are going to benefit more from diffusion. Some need reflection. It just depends on what the speaker is doing and what it needs to behave best at your main listening position.
If your off-axis character of your speakers is very similar to the on-axis character, you don't need to absorb it nearly as much.
Nope. And diffusion can actually help a bit more, or just allowing it to reflect. It just depends on the characteristic of the speaker. So there's a lot of variables. There's a lot of things to take into consideration, but I would recommend building them yourself. You can save a ton of money if you're doing that.
And you can move them around the room for not much money out of pocket and play with them and see if you like it.
Or if you really want to test and you have extra mattresses or you have blankets and stuff, just throw them in different locations and see what happens.
Yeah.
Sometimes in certain rooms for people, experimentation. Use what you got before you spend money. I know we talk about some big ticket stuff a lot here, but it's also really important to try and figure out what you're going to do regardless of how much you're going to spend before you spend the money instead of throwing it away. All three of us have been in those situations where we do something and we immediately think after we put it in, like, I wish I would have done X, Y, or Z before I did that.
Yeah, if you're just building absorbers, Rockwool is cheap. It's easy to acquire. You can get it kind of anywhere. The denim material stuff is a lot harder to source, at least usually local. You can buy bigger materials depending upon what your local places have. Menards will sometimes have the 2 foot by 4 foot, so you can build larger ones. Otherwise, it's going to be the 15 by 24 or 15 by 48 Rockwool panels. If you have an HVAC contractor around, some HVAC contractors will sell Owens Corning 703, 705, and then this Select Sound, I think is what it's called.
Well, we tried to find some, and it was a little bit more difficult than we thought it was going to be to find.
It's not a usual stock product at a lot of ones. I happened to find a place that had ordered some for someone else that never actually picked it up or did it, so they wound up sticking it in inventory and just sold to me at cost to get it out of their space. They'd had it for 4 years sitting around. But yeah, most of them will want to order it on a truck basis or a pallet basis. So that's another thing, that if you've got friends and you want a specific material and you're going to do a bulk order, you can save a ton of money that way too.
Jonathan, anything to add?
I was reading comments. You guys got it.
He doesn't care.
I care. Sometimes
He doesn't care about me. He doesn't care about you.
There's a Pro Audio or a audio space that does a lot of stuff. There's a site called Gear Sluts that does a lot of
family show, Bob. Family show.
That has a couple of people who are really big into acoustics on there that do a lot of work on panels over there as well.
Magic 60 flats. Jonathan's gonna
Crack
laugh out of his chair. I run a 10-year-old JVC DLA X35 new bulb. Would an Epson LS 12,000 blow it away? Dedicated dark room. I don't remember the specs on the X35.
So I have a funny story about that. One of
on
the
this
guys
particular projector
is named Luke. He has, I think, that same projector, and if it's not that one, it's darn close to that one. He went and saw a JVC NZ9, and Luke said, I guess I don't have to upgrade my projector. I think mine's just as good as this one. So I don't agree with Luke for what it's worth. But in his room, for his needs, he was saying that he was ultimately still happy with that X35.
Ooh. So it says, according to Projector Central, it's a 1300 lumen brightness.
Yeah,
1080.
So if your screen size is small, though, JVCs JVCs and Epsons both haven't really changed their baseline contrast for a long time.
No, it's like 50,000 to 1 is what they're expecting.
JVC's X35 still has good contrast.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a 1080p projector, yes, but we all kind of know that if you're far enough back from the screen, does 4K really matter that much? A little bit, yes, a little bit.
Depends on how big your screen is and how far away you sit.
All true. So the point being, Majek could be just like Luke, be like, wow, I'm happy with what I got. Or he could be like some of the other guys and be like, holy smokes, this is the best looking image I've ever seen. There's that scale of
you're going to get more than double the brightness out of the Epson. You'll get, you'll get at least double the calibrated brightness out of the Epson, maybe 2.5 times. You'll
The
get
question that
4K,
I have is, which one would you guys pick?
the Epson.
Oh yeah. Oh, there's no question for me.
I like Jonathan's reaction.
I'm the other end.
No question.
Like to me, the NZ9 would smash the X35.
I'm not talking about the NZ9.
No,
I'm
I'm
talking about the
talking about
LS12000.
the LS12000, yeah.
I'm just saying, like, I just know that there's this. It's
You don't
not
have
a
the bulb
one
stuff to
answer for
worry
everybody,
about. You get 4K, you get good motion, you get a lot of great features out of
You
that.
get handshakes that don't take 45 seconds, like on those old JVCs. Your windows would time
He's
out.
not
You can't change
exaggerating.
the resolution before the thing.
He's on a 108-inch screen, 16:9, 8 feet back. I mean, you're not a particularly big screen.
What size screen was it?
He
8
says
feet
100
back, he's
180.
probably going to notice the resolution difference.
Yeah.
What size screen? I didn't catch it.
He says
108.
16:9.
Man, go to a TV. Get out of here.
That is
I
true.
mean, honestly, yes. An 83-inch OLED is going to be so much better at that size.
Or just throw all considerations out the window and go to a 97-inch OLED.
Yeah.
I can't recommend a 100-inch projector when there's 100-inch TVs now. And like I don't even think I do a 100-inch TV. I think I'd be doing like a 83 OLED for $3,000 that we're talking about.
We just did those.
It's hard. I mean, even saying it's 120-inch screen. I mean, it's looking small these days.
You can get a B4 83 for $2,500.
Yeah.
Right now at Best Buy. Get
Now.
out of here. Leave this chat and go to
Go
Best
buy one.
right now.
It's so much better in every way.
I don't know why partners let people watch us. Like, we've got to be bad influences. Go do it right now. Take out your credit card, go to Best Buy, buy a TV. Just do it now.
We're not getting any sponsorships from JVC or Epson. We're like, put those things away.
LG though. LG though.
Honestly, those projectors, those current generation projectors are beautiful and amazing in 120 to 135-inch positive gain screen.
Yeah.
That's where their magic is.
I feel like for projectors, you probably need to be a little bigger than that, than 108 to continue in this modern world, because projector technology has not moved that much.
But maybe he's got AT.
Technology has.
Maybe he's AT.
So what?
John is just like, forget
it. Just don't use the center channel.
Do top and bottom center channels.
You don't need it.
Shut up, Bob.
Just use the left and right. Put them on the outside of the TV. You'll be happy.
Anyway, next question. Good question, Majak. I hopefully didn't answer that at all.
We all said the same thing. And in response to your answer, yes, the LS12000 will knock your socks off compared to that X35. In our opinion,
it'll be crazy bright on a small screen like that.
But we also all say don't buy it. Go buy an LG OLED.
If you're staying at 108, maybe he could get a bigger screen.
Right. If you've got the room to go to 120 at that point in time, then yeah. But you got to watch.
Go 135.
Well, he might have a throw distance issue if he's only sitting 8 feet away.
Take down the rear wall.
Check your throw distance.
Go into the kitchen. I mean, come on. Where there's a will, there's a way. Just do you want to go that far
on the floor sideways and reflect it off a mirror? And
yeah. There's ways to do it. All right. Good question. Thanks, Majak. Jonathan.
What? Next question. I'm reading comments again. Let me catch up here. Where are we at?
Am I wrong? Stay Kelly.
Okay. Well, why aren't you just clicking it if you're there?
Because I've got you to do it.
Oh, you just want to hear my voice? I can't even talk at all tomorrow. Am I wrong for wanting to buy the Denon A1H and have 9.4.6 in my fairly small room, which is 15 by 10 and 8-foot ceilings? I have 2 rows, and my X6300 AVR is 8 to 9 years old, so I want to upgrade soon. No, you're not wrong.
How do you get 2 rows of seating in that?
That's pretty tight.
That's pretty tight.
Man. Good. I don't know.
Yeah.
Pay close attention briefly. I don't even have the voice to talk about this. If your room is laid out like this with your main listening row between this and your rear 6, you don't need 6 speakers. You just need 4 ceiling speakers.
You don't need wides either.
I like my wides.
I do
Your
too.
room is much wider though. Your difference in space is there is
That's
I mean,
very true, and that's fair.
you could be just fine in a 744 with
But
that.
it depends on the dispersion of his speakers. Maybe they're
That's-
really narrow.
That's true. And if you're wanting to cover or you're duplicating Atmos or side and Atmos channels or whatever, so that might not even be wide. Those might be duplicated sides to cover the second row better.
I'm kind of thinking that he could do a 744 in that room with
It's
10
a great layout.
foot width, and it would be a really nice layout. And you're saving a little bit of money because you can get an X6800, and Ryan has a good deal on an X6800 for you that'll save you quite a bit. And you'll save the money on the speakers too. And I don't think you're going to be giving up anything.
You could experiment with your positions and anything with the lower with a lower channel count and see if you notice the difference.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here. If you are a person that constantly runs into FOMO, fear of missing out, and you don't do that, and you don't do what he's proposing, there's probably going to be a part of him that's going to say,
why did I listen
should
to
I have done that? Why did I listen to those?
Me and have bought that 9.4.6 setup and realized like it sounds worse. So I use 4 ceiling speakers, these 4. I pulled up 2 fingers, these 4, and those are not even turned on back here.
These 4.
Those 2 are not turned on because they make my system sound worse to have 6 ceiling speakers.
Yep.
We've talked about that in several podcasts. I don't have the voice to reiterate it tonight, but I'll talk about it in a future one if you bring it up a comment again when I have my voice back.
Does Denon allow you to do front and rear heights?
No, not rear heights.
Can you do front heights?
You do front heights, but front heights are crap. I've tried them several times. They don't work at all.
I'm trying to be a terrible influence, okay? Just let me.
How many speakers did you have in your previous iteration?
Let's not talk about that.
How many could you tell you had versus how many?
I don't know. How many were in there? It was 11.
It was like 11, 17. You had like 17 heights or something crazy.
It was 6.
We used to always, with Youth Man on here, we used to always joke and make it go up every time. At one point, it was like 47 speakers he had. It was good.
I think there were
every podcast.
30. There were like
you used
20.
all the channel processor.
Yes.
And you only had what, 4 subs? Or
there were 5 subs. So 32 channels minus 5. So there were
27 channels.
27 speakers in that room. I mean, I've been there. I've done that. So they were very narrow dispersion speakers, but I had more speakers on the ceiling than I did in the bed layer. So
2 different versions of them too.
I have to agree with Jonathan. I think the 6800 is probably going to be the way I would go. The A1H is a beast, though.
There's one that's one step down from that, the A10 or
The A10H.
That has
I haven't ever seen it.
Instead of 15. And I think it can still process 15. It just doesn't have 15 amps, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
maybe he could do that. Yeah.
And then if you decide you want, the channels are there, and if you don't,
it depends on the speakers, though. I mean, at the price point you're sitting at, though, also you can buy dedicated amps and a kind of entry tier processor to hit the same price as that Denon and have significantly better power that you can keep.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a set of Buckeyes or something like that, you'll get great process. You won't be current limited because you'll have a whole lot more processing or amp capability. And, I mean, we talked about it earlier, an Anthem AVM 70 is what, $3 grand or something like that?
The what's $3 grand?
Isn't the AVM 70 like $3 grand?
I would do a Denon over an Anthem.
Oh, as far as an entry level processor, though.
Oh,
because I think that's $3,000. So that plus
a 6800 is cheaper than an AVM 70.
I'm saying if you want that kind of the channel count, you want that stuff, and you're worried about that. Because once you switch to that, it starts to get really expensive to maintain it. I mean, processors are very expensive compared to AVRs. But if you got the pre-outs, you can use the pre-outs.
Things are going to get exponentially more expensive if you go with a processor because you got to get all those amps.
Mm-hmm.
Good question. I would do the 6800. Or just rip it all out and do 2-channel. Or mono.
You need 2-channel.
No center, though, if you're Bob.
The center channel is not for you. The center channel is for other people.
I'm running dual PSA X30s Would dual 18s pressurize my 17 by 11.5 by 9 foot space better? I'm not lacking base now. I'm just looking for more pressure. The answer is no. Going from, you have, those X30s are two 15-inch drivers, right? And he's talking about going to dual 18s.
I don't know what that one is.
Pressurizing your space takes a whole lot of drivers.
A lot.
And your space isn't huge, so that's to your benefit. But if you're not pressurizing it now, jumping from 15 to 18s in the same quantity is probably not going to be enough. Like,
two 15-inch.
It sort of gets ridiculous when you want to pressurize a space, and I'm not even sure you'd like it. You can do this another way, though. If you stack your drivers so that there's a single pressure wave, like a single location, like put your dual PSA X30, stack them up. Try it just as an experiment. Stack them up, rerun your auto EQ to set your distances, give that a shot, and see if you don't get more of a pressure wave with just the single location.
But I don't think he's going to get pressurization. He's going to get more of the tactile feel.
You're going to get more of a wave.
Because pressurization, like you said, I like it, but you don't. I know you don't, because you change configurations because you don't like it.
I don't like
pressurization is like you're underwater. Like you have a weight on you from the
ears.
It
feels uncomfortable.
Some people don't like it, but it takes the bass to the next level. It's just, the compromise of that feeling. It is literally like you're underwater, because there is a pressure that is greater than the normal pressure that we experience every day on you. So you will increase your pressure wave doing what Jonathan's telling you to do, but I don't think you're going to increase necessarily the pressurization of the room. Maybe you will, because you did it kind of by repositioning the speakers in the corner, but you were corner loading.
Yeah, I think you could probably do that with what he's got as far as just getting a feel for it. Sorry, I'm pulling up a video to share with him.
Yeah, those fire front and back though, so you're gonna have a little bit different layout.
No, I didn't realize that. Never mind, that's not going to work. You would need them to all be like the cones.
Right. He doesn't have like 4 individual drivers on that, so I don't know if that.
Where are they in the room? Oh, he's got plenty of tactile. You're not going to gain anything.
So I'm going to put a YouTube link in here for you, and I don't know how to say your name. It's Majek60. I'm going to put a link in here for you that we talk about. Some of the local Kansas City guys talked about base pressurization, and Scott Newby is in there. And if anyone can talk about base pressurization, it's that guy. He's nearing up 160 dB in his house. But I've been to 2 theater systems that were both capable of the low to mid 150 dB systems. Luke M. the Man and Alex Penny Nike is his forum name. I don't remember his last name for some reason right now. At any rate, I've been in those rooms and I don't like it. If you want that, you have to have so many drivers. It's ridiculous. What you're talking about with just like 4 drivers is not even going to get close. No. You're going to need like Alex has like 10 horn 18s and then several other 18s stacked in like sealed configs as well. So he's got all those. Luca and the Man to get there had like 10 21s. Scott Newby has like 20 18s. I mean, that's the kind of stuff you're talking about if you're wanting that level of pressurization. So you're not getting there with just 2 or 4 subs. Not even.
It's a small space though, but I mean, yeah, it's just going to depend on how you excite it too.
Yeah. Now watch that video that I linked to you. You'll get some ideas because we're all talking about it. There's several guys in that video that have been in those rooms. We're talking about what it feels like, what you got to do to get it, how many drivers you need, if it's worth pursuit, all that kind of stuff. I think that's a good video for your headspace to see if it's something you even want to pursue. Okay. MW teases me again. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. They will remain there until I get my job site table and start making.
They're Jonathan's kids ninja.
It got delayed again. My saw was supposed to be here. I was thinking I might work on it this weekend. It got delayed to the 21st.
They're Jonathan's kids American Ninja.
Ryan calls them my lily pads, so the kids can jump from one to the next. All right. Do we have any contrast numbers on the QL3000? No. I haven't seen any reviews on it yet that are nothing more than just the official Epson numbers.
I'd assume they're going to be 3000. Epson's been calling out other projector companies and taking them to court, so I would assume that their numbers are true.
Honestly, the best comparator you can look at is their commercial line, and there are a few reviews somewhere. I think they're overseas of those. It's probably the exact same chip.
So what, 3,000 to 1?
I think it's like 2,500 or 3,000 to
Somewhere
1.
in there.
Somewhere
That
in that
would be
range.
my expectation.
Is it worth all the digging into drywall to switch from front heights to front tops? I have vaulted ceilings, so it angles the speakers nicely.
The heights you classify as the ones that are at the top of the wall angled down.
I think front heights are crap, so front tops will always win, my opinion.
How do you really feel, Jonathan?
Crap.
I like heights or tops. The ones in the ceiling, whichever the one is in the ceiling. I can never keep those straight.
The heights are the ones that are on
This
the
one.
wall.
Yeah.
I don't like the ones that are on the wall that angle down.
You had real high, tall. If you had tall ceilings and you use the front heights, that might work.
It might work well.
But in like a typical 7 or 8 foot room, you can't even tell.
But there's no content for them anyway.
Well, object content, but it's very minimal.
That's what I mean. It's minimal.
And they're almost indifferent. Every time I've been around front heights, and it's multiple times now, and I've even experimented with my own room to come to this twice to come to this conclusion. You think like, oh, that's kind of cool. It's there. And then you take them down and you rerun your auto EQ and you don't have front heights and you run it again. And you're like, that doesn't sound any different.
Nope.
That's because your spatialization difference. I mean, you've got say you mount your sides 4 or 5 feet off the ground and you're mounting your heights 7 feet off the ground. They're not much higher.
Yeah, it's just not enough of an angle degree difference to make it separate. So the front tops are more usable in most rooms. If you had 14-foot ceilings, go at it. I bet front heights might be cool in that room. But 7 or 8 foot ceilings don't bother.
Within your commercial theater, and you've got the second row of speaker heights.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the in-ceiling speakers work well.
Need suggestions on what receiver or processor and separates I should run. Use is not an issue. I'm on a tight budget. $5K is the goal for amplification and processing. You got to give us more information, Blake. We need to know how many speakers you want to run. We want to know what kind of like speakers you have.
What kind of room you're in. I mean, how
make
big
the assumption that he's in a room that's 13 speakers. I mean, that's when somebody starts considering a processor, that's usually where they are.
But if he has low sensitivity process or low sensitivity speakers, we might have a different recommendation. If he has high,
but again, you're going to go
instead of 15 speakers.
For at that price point, though. I mean, it's just going to fall back into that easy, the Denon and an Epson.
Pretty safe.
It's really hard to beat that at that price point.
Pretty safe.
But he's not even he's saying receiver and processor, not a projector. He doesn't need a
processor. Yeah, at $5K.
Denon.
You could do the Denon. I mean,
he says it. I have a 16-foot wide, 20-foot deep room. I'm building my first theater. I have 7 KLH 8650s for bed layer and 7 8602s. Picked up all 14 speakers for $2,400.
KLH 26 what? I'm looking them up.
It's in the chat.
8650.
I'm gonna look that speaker up. I don't know anything about it.
That's an end wall. It is.
Probably don't have a lot of power handling capabilities, so you can probably get by.
$850 speaker each one. Typically, well, they're MSRP. You got all those for the steel. It sounds like.
Well, then he got
91 dB
8602s.
8 ohm power handling capabilities. Recommended 50 watts to 350 watts, but it's probably not that. So it's
he doesn't need anything more than a Denon.
1-inch silk dome and 2.
Well, there's your answer right there.
Yeah, just don't. You just don't.
What's the 8602? Look up the KLH 8602. What's that?
KLH 8602. That one looks like it's an in-ceiling speaker, like a single, it looks like. So
6-inch in-ceiling,
1-inch soft dome in both the in-wall and these ceilings, 6.5-inch driver. That Denon's fine, man. Just get a Denon.
Just do a Denon 6800.
And
send
don't
me an
let
email.
someone tell you need amps. They're not going to help you. Your speaker isn't capable of doing true reference anyway, which is okay. But they've got a 1-inch silk soft dome, and those cannot do reference. And if you put a big amp on them, it's just not going to help you.
It's going to compress before
you'll hit distortion and compression way quickly.
Yep. Yeah, you're not going to do yourself any favors. So if you read on the forums about how an amp totally revolutionized someone's life, it's nonsense for your speakers. Just get a Denon and enjoy what you got.
I've got
gain changed.
6-inch in speakers or 6-inch or 6.5-inch in ceiling speakers right now. I've got 8-inch and then silk tone tweeter or aluminum tweeters on the sidewalls. Their power handling capability realistically is 50-60 watts for continuous long term. And I'm driving all of that stuff except the fronts off a Yamaha MXA 5000, and just 100 watts a channel or something like that, but you don't even come close to using it. Yeah. And remember, driving that power up really only nets you
very little,
3 to 6 dBs if you're going crazy.
If you double
is 3.
Double is 3, quadruple is 6.
And that's
so if you're 50 watts,
and those KLHs probably can't even handle it. Like
the in walls they say 50 to 350, but their long term probably power handling capability is probably not that.
That peak is not. I mean, they might peak that high. They're not going to be happy running that high.
They've got 5 drivers on them because they're.
But the Denon's going to be able to instantaneously blip that. I mean, it's not.
Yes, he'll be happy with that Denon.
It's not going to sustain it. Send me an email at web@hometheatersavant.com and we'll get you taken care of.
Get it hooked up. Don't go into the amp world thinking you're going to be happy. That won't be your answer. If you're not happy with the speakers with the Denon, you need to get different speakers. I'm just telling you from 20 years of doing this hobby, that's how that works.
Yeah, you're not going to gain the loudness that you want out of 89 dB sensitive speakers. They're going to sound good. They're just not going to hit. You can't throw power at them and get what you want out of them, or to get a big experience out of them.
Okay, how many speakers did he have, by the way? Did he say that?
11. 6,800.
Yeah, that's a great match. All right.
2 more. I'm done.
I feel like we talked about this already. Was this?
No, he asked. I think he's asking now, why are you against front heights?
I mean, it's just nothing more than I've never been able to tell that they're even on. You think they're on until you turn them off and run the same content, and you can't tell a difference. And I've tried this in multiple rooms with multiple systems and twice in my own rooms. And I was just going back to the previous commentary. If you got 7 or 8 foot ceilings, there's not enough of an angle degree separation. Your brain plays tricks on you. So like, I remember very specifically, I watched the Incredible Hulk 2008 movie and I had front heights enabled. And I was thinking, that's cool. I think I can hear that helicopter circle around the room. It's at the top, like at the ceiling level at the front, just, at the top of the room. That's cool. That seems to be working. I unhooked them. I reran my auto EQ and I didn't have front heights. And I watched the same clip and it sounded identical. It sounded like the helicopter was running around the top of the room where the speakers were. It's just that your head, like the helicopter sound's supposed to be high. So your head just puts it up there. I don't think anyone could tell the difference in a blind test. Like, so it's placebo city. And again, if you had real tall ceilings, that might not be the case, but it's the case with 7 or 8 foot ceilings. Just
back to Blake, because I don't think there's anything else to talk about on that particular comment. He says he actually has 14 speakers. Why do you have 14? He doesn't have a center channel. He's like Bob.
Center height, maybe. Voice of God.
Maybe.
He has 7 for the bed layer. No, so he's got that, and 7. Only paid for 4 in ceiling. So he has 7 in ceiling.
So he must have a voice of God. Does Denon even support voice of God? It does? Yeah. Well, then he's going to have to do the A1H. Or the A10H with an amp.
Or install only 4 of them.
If he wants to use them all. Otherwise, I wouldn't bother with a voice of God. I don't think it's worth it. I think it's a waste.
I don't know if I've ever actually even experienced the system of voice of God. If you guys,
Mine had it.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but it doesn't. It only works in select sound formats.
It doesn't matter because your tops are going to stereo image the sound anyway.
It only works with Oro 3D, right?
And there's like 4 movies.
Right.
I don't even know if there's that many.
There's more than that, but there's not. They're also mixed in Dolby Atmos and DTS when they're Oro 3D. It's not like they're only Oro 3D.
So he's in a 16 by 20 room. Is that 1 row seating too?
It's not worth it.
Yeah,
subjectively, this goes back to the subjective thing that, I've got it. I've been there. I've done it. I think for a while I had it. The amp channel was off, and I didn't even realize it was off. So it's.
I never actually had it hooked up. He can't.
for most theater spaces with a single row, a 7, however many subs you want to add, 4 setup is a great setup. And we'll cover most things really, really well. Adding more is not always better.
No. I would either do the 6800 or do a 10H. Either of those. I mean, the 6800, if you need 11 or 13 with an amplifier, the A10H gets you what? 13 channels and then 2 more with an amplifier? Anthony's saying the A10H with an amp doesn't work. Is it 13 channels or is it 1313? Maybe the A10H is weird.
A10H processing. Oh, A10H is limited to 13.4 channels of processing, but it does have 15.4 preamp outputs. They just can't be used simultaneously. That's from Audioholics.
So you could use it as like a doubling.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have an Oro 3D config where your Voice of God was enabled if you decided you wanted it.
Because you can do AB on Denny Marantz, right? For 2 different configs.
It'd be like the 8500. Do you remember how it had 2 different, like you had speaker hookups for more than it could drive at the same time? Sounds like the same thing for the A10H.
I would just do the 6800.
You just might as well do the 6800, right? Because you're saving money and it just drives 13 still.
A lot of money.
Yeah.
So,
did I ever put that bass pressurization video in there? I told one of the guys I'd do. I think I lost my mind here.
I thought you did.
I'm putting it in again in case I didn't. It's a YouTube video, so it shouldn't strip out the URL here. Okay, I just put it in again. All right, here's the next pinned one. Wait a minute. I lost my page.
Why is Anthony saying that the 6800 can't? It's not like the 6800 that uses 2 times 8-channel DACs. It has 2-channel DACs and doesn't process more than what it powers.
Don't get lost on that 2-channel DAC versus 1-channel mono DACs. It just doesn't matter. Go to ASR and look at the Synad scores and the distortion scores and stuff. They're way above audible threshold.
Well, he's talking about processing.
I know, but there's a whole thread on people saying like, well, why are they using stereo DACs and multiplying it out instead of using like mono DACs for each channel? Like that's some controversial audiophile nonsense. It just doesn't matter. It's all above audible threshold.
I agree.
Okay, so last question that's pinned, but I'm
not doing anymore.
Thoughts on the Monolith HTP1? That was on sale recently. I don't know if it still is, but a good sale. Let's see if it still is.
It was actually in stock.
Good question.
You get the B stock sales all the time on that thing.
That's scary. Why are there so many B stocks?
People I know that have this are real happy with it.
Or it could just be returns.
Maybe.
That's an ATI product, right?
Yes. You know, it's not on sale anymore. I think it was $2,500 or $2,800 on Black Friday, which is as cheap as it's ever been.
I've never had hands on that one. Again.
I haven't either.
I don't think I've been, but they do. They had some controversy because I don't know that they were really delayed on the HDMI 2.1 stuff. I'm not even sure where that fell out. Did you guys remember where that fell out? Did they ever?
The answer is don't use it. Get a room.
Yeah, and then they did do some cool stuff with like bass PEQ, where you can in the software go download a movie filter that's been reworked from the disc copy and adds bass back in that's filtered out by the studio. So a lot of times the studio will filter out 35 hertz and below, 40 hertz below, 20 hertz and below, whatever. Different per movie, different per sound mixer, different per studio, because most homes don't want it. It'll blow up subwoofers and stuff. But there's bass PEQ, which adds that back in and makes a nice flat response. And it's kind of a hassle because if you don't have something like this, you got to load up an RAW EQ file and put it in your DSP, or you got to do all this manual stuff. But if you have the monoprice machine, you can just use a drop down, load the movie list, choose your movie, and it puts the filters in automatically for you. So that's really cool. And that's user add. That was not originally there. The community asked for it and Monoprice added it, which is super cool. That alone gets my recommendation for it.
I don't really find much value in that though.
I've never even really used it, but I've experienced it several times, and I'm with you. I probably wouldn't even bother, but there are people that really love it. A lot of people in the tactile bass thread that love it.
Yeah. So back to Anthony, he says he actually agreed with us. He was saying that there's 2 extra DAC channels that allow it to do what we say it does, like the 2 extra channels of processing. I think he was just confirming that the A10H doesn't and this one does.
Yep.
Miguel Munez says we missed his question. Well, resubmit your question and I will wait and we will answer it because we don't like leaving people on red. I apologize about that. There was another one that I starred.
Oh, he gave a heartbreak. It's not even.
No, he was upset. Van Gool says, I just bought an Onkyo RZ50 receiver and have Jamo speakers or Yamo or whatever they are. Nobody knows. Should I go amp or upgrade my speakers to something else? Please, God, upgrade your speakers.
Yeah, that's another situation where an amp upgrade is not going to really help your speakers very much. It's time to upgrade your speakers. If you want more, if you're dissatisfied, it's time to upgrade your speakers.
Upgrade the speakers.
Agreed.
Yep. No question. Here's his question. Last question. Miguel Munoz says, VTV Purify 400A 4-channel versus 3-channel Purify. Do you really need the Purify? Is the question.
Well, they're both Purifies.
I know. I'm asking if he needs Purify. Because Purify is probably going to be more expensive than HypeX, than the base version of HypeX.
Not significantly, but I mean, it's yes.
Each one of those ET400s is like $600 per channel. The HypeXs are considerably less than that.
I don't know anything about the VTV line of stuff.
The VTV is going to be more expensive than Buckeye, I think.
I don't know. Let me try to find it. VTV Purify. This one?
Are the VTVs actively cooled?
I don't know. So I'm trying to find out.
M-Wave!
Hallie G, however you say the name, they're on you.
I know. M-Wave right now is 2026. Been saying that for a while. We got some things that we're trying to work out, trying to make it change things a little bit, make it bigger, trying to get the industry more involved. So, yeah, 2026 right now.
I don't see him selling any amps with that.
Oops, sorry, says VTV is cheaper. Or, well, he says is cheap. Maybe I'm misconstruing.
At that chassis size, there's no way those are actively cooled. They're very tiny also.
VTV.
I'm trying to find that particular one because I can't.
1ET400. Well, the stereo version of the VTV is $1,500. So I'm going to guess that the 4-channel is almost double that. Would be a guess. I don't know what Buckeyes. How much are Buckeyes?
I mean, they're most likely going to be similar in construction.
Well, yeah, but I'm just looking at the price point here. Shop. He's got some new amps on here. Oh, there's a lot more Purifies on here. That's cool.
Right. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's changed. I looked at one of those. I was like, I have not looked into any of these ones.
He doesn't even have the 400s on here anymore. Now that
right, I didn't see the 400s on the VTV side either. They only had the 700s.
So this 3-channel, the 3-channel 6525 SA is cheaper than the 2-channel 400 on VTV. I'm always going to recommend Buckeye. Dylan does right by his customers. Go Buckeye. Even if it's a little more expensive.
I feel like sometimes MW puts questions in there he knows the answer to and challenges us to see if we know the answer. In this case, I really don't know the answer, and I'll be honest and admit it.
I don't know either.
It's probably depending on its heat dissipation characteristics.
I know that there's like the old iron amplifiers. The joke used to be that you could weld by them. They had a very strong power supply, and they used toroidal power supplies, and they had a lot of capacitance. What I don't know is whether the toroidal part of it, and I'm not even sure I'm saying it right. I've never known how to say it.
Toroidal.
I don't know whether that adds capacitance or if it's just literally the capacitance array that does that and the toroidal just cleans up the power. I don't know that. I'm not to that level, MW, and I bet I have a suspicion that you might be, and you're teasing us a little bit. So you got us here. If you know the answer, put it in chat and we'll post it up.
This is too smart for me.
That one.
I don't know.
I do know, and I've talked about this before on the podcast, that with my butt kicker advanced units and butt kicker LFE units, when I test them with a Class D amplifier and I test them with a Class A, B, Class H, like the old iron, the heavy amps that weigh 50, 70 pounds, the Class D cannot sling that butt kicker slug. It's a 1 pound slug. It can't sling it around. The Class D can't, like the old iron amps. And it's noticeable. So
could that just be because of impedance?
Or the power supply that's on
the things are 4 ohm.
Yeah.
So
they're 4 ohm nominal. It doesn't mean that they're always 4 ohm.
Yeah, I've never seen an impedance graph for the butt kickers. That's fair. But I will say this. The Class D amps on a subwoofer, I can't tell a difference between the old iron and the Class D. But on the butt kickers, you absolutely can.
But that's going to depend, though, if you look at if you drop way down in frequency, if you're doing 10 hertz or you're trying to push single digits on that, then you'll run into duty cycle and you'll run into charge rates on those things. And even on database,
sure it makes much difference for real world content. If you're doing sine sweeps, it would. But does it for
maximum outputs? Yes. For real world content, probably not.
So where it matters on those butt kickers is they will make a sound like they're bottoming out at much less vibration, like objectively, clearly, easily visible, testable. They will make a bad sound, which happens like if they bottom out on like a Class D amp before they will on an old iron amp. And the old iron amp will both make it it jumps off the carpet with an old iron amp, like a Crown XLS 202. For instance, that's just putting out 400 watts, 200 watts a channel, 400 watts if you bridge it. A butt kicker advance will jump off the carpet, leave the ground with one of those Crown amps. If you do it on a higher wattage Behringer, for instance, a Class D, it will make a sound it's not happy, but it won't be bouncing off the carpet before it makes that sound. So whether that's capacitance, whether it's that whole old joke about being able to weld with the thing, I don't know. A switching power supply that's used in a Class D, my hypothesis is, unscientific as it is, uneducated as it is that a switching power supply is not able to throw that slug around, that heavy 1 pound slug around, as well as like a steady current instead of a switching current. I don't know. That's my experience. I don't have the knowledge behind it. I just have the experience behind it. So did MW come through the comments and give us his?
He just said, "Lol."
I think he was testing us. We have failed. We know things and we share it when we know it. When we don't know things, we'll just be honest and say we don't know. And this is that case. We don't know. So take confidence. If we tell you something we do know, we're telling you what we know. We're not BSing you here.
What am I looking at here? Frequency input. Here, since we're on the topic of these, I'm going to put it in private chat. And then I'm going to share this. Somebody, now I don't know how accurate these are because I just found them on the interwebs, but somebody took measurements.
That's cool.
What is this tab called?
What are these though? I'm going to have to check this one out after our podcast. That's a cool link.
What is happening? Okay, I'll put it back over here. I'm trying to share it and it's like not. There it is. Yeah. Or not, or you're not gonna. Yeah. Can somebody else share that? Because it's not letting me. It's unhappy with me.
I gotta go through my little song and dance of turning off HDR real fast first.
There was another question I thought. Somebody asked, what do you guys think about seating distance? Is there any guide that tell you how far you should sit from your screen?
There are a lot of them, but they're not current.
I don't like any of those guides. Sit where you feel is comfortable. Shoot the projector at the wall and find out where you like it.
Yeah, it's really easy to grab like a futon or something and just slide your chair forward until you figure out your viewing distance.
You
Go
don't
to
even
a
need
movie theater
a futon. Just sit on a folding chair.
or in a folding chair, whatever. Yeah, whatever you got for your couch, but you just sit there for a while and watch a movie at it. I mean, what you think you might like might change over time too as you start to spend more time in front of a larger screen. The older standards of like a 35, 38 degree viewing angle are kind of getting thrown out for almost a 60-degree viewing angle now.
Yeah, 50s.
Yeah. So they're significantly bigger now.
All right.
I'm not even
trying to
sure
go
I
through
understand
these.
what I'm looking at here yet, Ryan.
That's performance of different tactile transducers versus input and power.
Yeah, but something's not right here. Like I've had these Clarks. I don't think they're very good. And look at how much more peak it says it's doing on. I guess that's telling you that it's centered around.
It's resonance frequency. Yeah, where they've got a peak output. So
140 hertz.
Somewhere in that realm. Yeah.
So that doesn't help you very much.
I wasn't very impressed with the Clarks. I had them for a while. My favorite personally is the Butt Kicker Advance. Which
Look how linear that is.
Yeah,
the Butt Kicker Advanced is.
I like it.
My booty likes it.
Frequencies it's raising, so you're getting more shake down here at the lower frequencies without any like weird peaky stuff.
Look at the Dayton BST 300EX and the peak.
Mm-hmm.
This is interesting. I like this stuff. This is cool. But I don't see I was looking for like an impedance curve or something. This is
not telling you. It's these Butt Kicker Minis. I owned a pocket full of these things. I had 4 of them. They're not good. They're not strong enough. Maybe
if you look at the total output though, because your output gain in that graph is lower than the other ones.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm saying. Like this isn't telling you where they start to fail or how much they provide output wise. Like this Aura, this is a toy. The Auras don't do anywhere near the shake of like a Butt Kicker does. Like this LFE would be extremely strong compared to anything else on this list so far. And that doesn't show in this graph like that. But the
frequency response I still think is important because it shows that there is a difference in the butt kick in the different types of tactile transducers. This is like looking at a frequency response and then saying, oh, well, this speaker, look at its measurement and not considering when it's going to compress. So it's the same thing, and it's the same warning here. It's more about what these are going to do given X voltage or X power and how linear that output is going to be.
It's also interesting to note how they come on too, because some of them roll off very linearly, and some of them drop right off a cliff when they don't have a certain power threshold.
Yeah, that's true.
It looks like the butt kickers don't do anything once you drop below a certain power threshold, but a lot of those other ones continue to provide output further down.
Yeah, like these Clarks end up feeling like a speaker, like they're on pretty much all the time. Where a butt kicker, there's like Bob's saying, there's like a threshold before they'll even activate or before you'll feel them activate.
Yeah.
It's like a certain amount of resistance that has to be overcome from the power level to even get that 1 pound slug moving.
There's going to be some sort of internal damping or something.
Go down to post.
Actually work. Like this Clark is it's basically a speaker, like the same exact design as a speaker, and so it's going to be moving all the time. What'd you say, Ryan?
Go down to post 8.
It's too big to even see. Let me make it smaller. Post 8. Here we go. This is your impedance.
Mm-hmm. So you can see how it's changing over time, or over the frequency.
Yeah, that's not very long, is it? This is the end. 13
This is the end.
All right, that's cool. Someone's doing this research.
Yeah, I think you may be onto something about the tactile transducers and amp size, and I think impedance has a big part of it, and the amp just not being able to provide the power that is needed at certain loads.
And it's also frequencies. The lower frequencies are a lot harder to power.
Mm-hmm.
Pardon me.
So certain commercial amps, I mean, a lot of those cheaper ones, and even the a lot of the pro audio amps aren't made to duty cycle at that low frequency, just because that they don't ever play that.
That reminds me of us going and buying 200 of those butt kickers, Jonathan.
I
Where did
love
you
the
get
story
200
that guy
kickers
told
from?
us that they had like another 100 in the
And then
wheelbarrow.
they just
Oh, did you get
disappeared.
this out of an AMC or a
No,
B&B
it
or
was
something?
where did we get those?
Oh, Elmo Draft House or whatever
Alamo
the
Draft
one was
House.
downtown. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
They were
No,
disgusting.
was that from Alamo? Is that
I
right?
think so. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we laughed because the guy that's bought them from us, he was some sort of like deconstruction company, basically just tearing down the theater. He said they pulled out like they were going to sell all these things. He pulled out like an extra 100. They were full in a wheelbarrow. And he said some bum just came by and stole the wheelbarrow with 100 butt kickers and ran down the street with it. And they were like,
What are they going to do
well,
with it?
nobody chased him or gave pursuit. And he just got away with 100 butt kickers. What is that guy going to do with it?
I don't know.
Take them to sell them for scrap.
Use them as weapons or something. Who knows? I don't know. They
No,
were gross. They
they'll
were
take 'em to sell 'em for
gross.
scrap.
Oh, funny.
I got no more questions. Nothing else.
Good. I can let my voice rest.
Good stream. So next we're watching Red One. Do we want to have a topic? No?
We can come up with a topic. I got some in I got a little notepad of some ideas. We'll throw some around. We'll put some up later.
Okay.
As long as it doesn't involve a job site table saw.
Jonathan will show us that regardless. Fruits of his labor. Okay. Well, that's all I got, gentlemen. So 2.5 hours. That's the longest one we've had in a while. But we'll have to do next Saturday work for you guys because I can't do Friday. My wife wants to go out to her birthday dinner on Friday.
As we get closer to Christmas, we might need to take some time off.
I
don't know if this is not close enough yet. We're okay.
No. So let's do next Saturday, which will be the 21st. And we will watch Red One. So chat, homework, watch Red One. We can all talk about our experience and what an immersive audio masterpiece it is. Or at least I'm hopeful it is.
It could be good.
It could be. It could be a lot of fun. But that's all I got. Last chance. You too.
That's it.
Okay. Jonathan, I'm going to see if those lily pads are there next week.
They will be.
They will
It all comes.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us. This has been another AV experience. Until next time, see you next Saturday. Watch the Red One, and we'll see you guys next.